What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Friday. TGIF action coming at you. Appreciate you tuning in wherever, however, you're tuning in on this fine April 26th. Whether you're listening to us on the radio dials of 105.1 FM, 790 AM online, sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up over there. You got your app. Smart devices, the video stream up and rolling, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff. Appreciate you making this part of your start here this morning. Day one officially in the books for the NFL draft. You had the Vikings making some trades, moving across the board, getting J.J. McCarthy, also getting edge rusher Dallas Turner, the Packers, Jordan Morgan, Caleb Williams going to the Bears, Rome Odunze, the wide receiver, also going to the Bears, Terry Arnold, corner, going to Detroit. So overall, I think it was a solid night for all NFC North teams. I really do. I feel like it was a solid night for every single team out there. For the NFC North. And if you're a Packers fan, I know you may be a little disappointed for some of you. For some of you, because Cooper DeJean was still on the board. He's still on the board. He's still available out there. The Jordan Morgan pick, we'll dive into it a little bit more coming up here in just a few minutes. It makes a ton of sense. It makes a ton of sense. I like Jordan Morgan. He was mentioned very early on in the whole draft process. I mean, I think it was like Mel Kiper's second version of his mock. He had Packers drafting Jordan Morgan. He was mentioned as a quote unquote Packers guy. He could play 4 different positions on the offensive line. It makes a ton of sense. A ton of sense. And in my opinion, he's a day one starter, whether it's going to be on the offensive line or whether it's going to be offensive tackle or the guard position. It makes a ton of sense with the Jordan Morgan pick. And I know your draft crush was probably still up there on the board, but here's the thing, day two is loaded. Right now, it is absolutely loaded. The Packers have the 9th overall pick today, 4 total today in 2 rounds. Every single safety is available on the board. Every single linebacker is available on the board. A crap ton of corners are available. There's only 3 taken in the first round. Heck, there's still even a lot of wide receivers, really good wide receivers that are still available if you want the Packers to pick up a wideout. And there's even some interior offensive linemen still available if you want them to double down on that. You got some defensive tackles who are still out there too. There is a ton of talent that is just oozing right now. And in my opinion, Green Bay is in a pretty darn good spot. Goody even saying after the round last night that this is a big day. Today is a big day for the Packers franchise. And I agree with him. I absolutely agree with him. He's got an opportunity today to really add some talented players that can help out, affect this team for this upcoming season. So we'll talk more about that coming up here in just a skosh, in just a little bit. All right. So we got that. I know that's a big one, and I'll go through. I've got my top 5 players potentially for that first, second round pick, and who knows? Maybe they move up a little bit. I don't know if they need to move up for that first pick with them sitting at number 9. I really don't think they need to, but who knows? All right, who knows? So we'll get to that. We'll talk some draft coming up here. Before the draft yesterday, the Brewers picking up a win against the Pirates thanks to Gary Sanchez and that towering shot. Contreras again continuing to stay hot. So the Brewers getting a series split after dropping the first 2 against the Pirates. They come back and pick up a couple wins to split the series. They are still a half game up over the Cubs. Cubs had got to give them credit, sweeping the Astros. Astros really struggling so far this year. But Brewers now 16-8 on the season. They return home to begin a 3-game series against the New York Yankees. Colin Ray is going to get the start tonight for the Crew. You got Joe Ross, who's going to get the start on Saturday, then Myers, who will get the start on Sunday. So this begins a couple of series in a row where you've got American League American League East teams coming into town. And then Brewers will hit the road again, taking on the Cubs in Kansas City. So you look at these next couple weeks here for the Brewers. We've got some interesting games with the Yankees for 3, Tampa Bay with 3, Chicago with 3, and then 3 against Kansas City. A lot of some offense with some of those teams right there. So we'll talk some Brewers, especially when our buddy Brandon Berg hops on coming up in the next hour here. So we'll chat Brewers. Bucks are in action today too. A little bit of an earlier game here, which again, if you're going to be into day 2 for the draft, you probably like this. It might be a couple TVs up or such, but Bucks 4:30 tip time, 4:30 against the Indiana Pacers. So now we might have Chris Middleton's listed as questionable for this game, dealing with the ankle injury. He did play. He did finish the game, but kind of wonder now after a couple days, the swelling and all that, is that affecting him, and will that affect his ability to play? Giannis has been doing more practice, but he's still listed as doubtful for this game. So how you feeling about tonight's game, Bucks fans? We're a little over 10 hours from tip-off. How you feeling about the Bucks heading over to Indiana for game 3? Game 4 is going to be on Sunday too. So we'll talk some hoops. We'll talk some Bucks coming up a little bit later on this morning too. We got Dr. Crow for a little inside the training room. That'll be coming up just past 7 o'clock for us this morning. We'll do a little cream of the crop. We got a local sports rundown. Brandon will be hopping on. Definitely talking about change in the Chippewa Falls hockey program. Scott Parker, long time, very successful career, but calling it a career, retiring. That was an announcement yesterday. So we'll get all the things on all the local stuff, local rundown with Brandon coming up just past 8 o'clock here this morning. So we'll hit that up coming at you too. So we got lots of stuff to hit up on Brewers, Bucks, recapping day 1 of the draft, looking ahead to day 2, which is my favorite, my absolute favorite. And today is the perfect example why I love day 2. There is tons of talent still on this board for the Pack, including every safety available, as I mentioned a little bit ago. If you want them to get another linebacker, every linebacker is available. You want to double down on offensive line, there's still some talent, especially, maybe some interior offensive line. Running backs, if you want to change a pace back, all of them are available. There's boatloads of corners that are still available, some talented defensive tackles still available up here too. So there's some dudes. There are some dudes that are going to be sitting there for the picking for Green Bay. And when you compare it to the rest of the North here, this was from Wes Hodowitz from Packers.com. The Packers have 10 picks the next 2 days for today. The rest of the NFC North this is the rest of the NFC North, has just 12 picks in the next 2 days to tomorrow. That's it. The rest of the NFC North. Packers are going to get some talented players today that are really going to boost up this squad. And I love the quote from Brian Gutekunst yesterday that said, this is a big day. This is a big day. Today being a big day for the franchise, because he knows there's some guys available. All right. So, anybody? You got your eyes on anybody? I'm I'm sure the majority of you are going to say Cooper DeJean from Iowa. I'm sure that's where a lot of them are going. Okay, but is there anybody else? Anybody else potentially that you kind of have your eye on? Now that the dust has settled here a little bit, because as soon as that pick was announced last night, I know, at least in our chat, there was a lot of disappointed people out there. But now that the dust is settled, I mean, heck, Bill Belichick last night was praising the pick. Your thoughts on it? I like it. I like it. I'm all about it. I was actually thinking about trying to get him as an early round 2 pick there, but hey, I'm good with it right now. I think he can start day one, whether it's going to be at guard or at tackle. I like the pick. I think he's your, maybe eventually your future starting left tackle. Regardless, I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be around for the long term. He fits so many. I mean, he fits so many things that the Packers look at. Checks off so many boxes. It just makes sense. I get it. I get it. I understand the pick. I'm not upset about it at all. And I think I'm just really excited about the potential of what Green Bay could come away with today. So let's talk more about this. All right. Your thoughts, you can hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. All right. Or if you're a fan of another team, how do you think your team made out? Who do you think I don't know if I want to ask this question because I think, again, a lot of us would probably say the same team out there. Biggest surprise last night, was it Atlanta? Was it Atlanta that Michael Penix Jr.? Gotta say, it's kind of nice to not have a little bit of quarterback drama with your team that's paying a lot of money to a quarterback, and then they draft a quarterback. Although this one was kind of weird since Kirk Cousins hasn't even played a down yet for Atlanta, and they draft Michael Penix in the top 10 here, and then you got the viral video of Arthur Blank and Terry Fontenot, their GM, and the reports out there that Kirk Cousins was a little caught off guard, kind of confused with what's going on. I'm raising my hand right now. I was a little confused, especially with every single defensive player still available in Atlanta. You could bring in a coach that's got a defensive background. I would have thought they would have gone defense. Now the narrative out there is that they figured they were going to be drafting the bottom end of the first rounds with Kirk Cousins for the next few years. I don't know if I buy that one because, first of all, Michael Penix is a little bit older too. So I don't know. I don't know if I buy that one. I really don't. I don't know if that's a little damage control here. So that one I think is probably the biggest surprise. Easily the biggest surprise. So, all right, let's take that first break and we'll really get into it here this morning. Join in on the convo, people. All right. Hit me up with a text, 715-830-1912. We'll get things rolling. Coming up on the leadoff after these quick words. Turkey hunters, don't forget if you're having any luck to make sure you are sending us those photos. Heck, even if you're just even having some fun out there with maybe the kiddos or some friends and family and such, send those photos on over so we can put them up on the Tilden Gun Trophy Gallery at our website, sportstalk1051.com. And don't forget, maybe if you don't have your turkey tag for, I don't know, a couple more weeks, few more weeks, and you still need to maybe upgrade that shotgun game of yours, go visit our good friends from Tilden Gun. You can also check out their website, tildengun.com. Biggest selection, best prices in the area. Or if you're already thinking about deer season, thinking, you know what, I gotta, upgrade my deer rifle. Hey, maybe the wife needs a new deer rifle for this year. Mother's Day is coming up, huh? Yeah, Tilden Gun, baby. Go check them out and visit them online. Tildengun.com. Living a dream, Jeff. Chatting on the video stream here. So he says pick made sense. Tom might be moving to center now. All good. Looking forward to this afternoon. Tom, from across the pond here, our resident Lions fan, saying, loved the Lions trade to get a corner. Hope the rounds today are just as good. G Man also on the texting line here. DK, wow, the pack picked the player that the pack needed, and the pack will go get some players today. Way to go, Brewers. And Brewers will sweep the Yanks, and the Bucks will win 127 to 116. So Jordan Morgan, the pick. By the way, this is my early cream of the crop. No, we gotta wait for Brandon, but I'll tell you this, my cream of the crop, I'm giving it to David Bakhtiari, a hat tip. After the pick was announced yesterday last night, dude goes on Twitter/X and tweets, "Let's go!" Bunch of exclamation points. Good luck to Jordan Morgan, represent the position, the town, and the G with pride. Hashtag go pack go. I thought that was awesome, and I think that's freaking awesome for a guy, obviously released from the Packers because of his injuries that he's dealing with. We'll see if he's able to, continue his career or such. But, immediately after Morgan gets picked, essentially, some people believe the replacement for David Bakhtiari. And Bakhtiari is without a job right now. To go out there and do that, to tweet his support, I thought that was awesome. Stand up ish. So that's my early cream of the crop over there. But couple comments from Goody yesterday after the draft, chatting with the media. He said about Jordan Morgan, we really kind of feel he can play 4 positions for us, and that was the talk about Jordan Morgan in the early draft process. There's a lot of people who think he's better suited to play guard at this league or at the NFL level. Some people believe that. Some people may still believe maybe he can stay at the tackle spot. Regardless, he's a guy that can play multiple positions, which fits Green Bay right? We know this. This is what they want with their offensive linemen. Guys that can play multiple spots. Rudy's saying he played left tackle. He's got left tackle feet, very athletic kid, very strong, sturdy body. And when he was asked what position Jordan Love excuse me, Jordan Morgan's going to play, I'm going to get those two mixed up. Goody responded with what Matt LaFleur always says: best five. And it's the versatility now when you look at that, like Living a Dream just said. Zach Tom could be going to center now. They signed Andre Dillard to the veterans minimum with no guarantee. You've got options and you've got some versatility here now. All across the board, competition. We know Green Bay wants to bring in competition, competing for spots. You've got that flexibility now. If you really want to move Zach Tom to center, you can do that now. You have that ability with this. If you feel like your offensive line is a lot better with Zach Tom playing center, you can do that now. You've got that ability to do that. Walker, Dillard, Morgan. We'll see if they add some more in the next rounds here. But you have that versatility now to go out there and really put together what you think is the 5 best offensive linemen. And when you read about, listen, whatever the case may be about Jordan Morgan, you hear stuff like team captain, uh, locker room guy. You look at Senior Bowl Packers. We know they really look at the Senior Bowl stuff. He was lights out at the Senior Bowl, and that's when you really started to hear his name mentioned as a possibility for the Pack. This was from Jim Nagy back in February at Senior Bowl. Jim Nagy uh, runs the Senior Bowl over there, and he tweeted this video out and he tweeted this out about Jordan Morgan at a practice. Said plenty of guys put great stuff on tape, but nobody has been more consistent than Jordan Morgan. Did not lose a single one-on-one rep. Did not lose a single one-on-one rep at the Senior Bowl. And at that time, because I know some people were saying, "Oh, he's got a torn ACL." People were tweeting at me, "Yeah, but he's got a torn ACL." That was February. He was playing a Senior Bowl. First of all, he played this whole previous season. So, I mean, he's post ACL. It's not like he's still, not able to go out there and do anything. But this was 14 months post ACL, and he won every single one-on-one. He's gonna get better. He's gonna get stronger now. It just fits, okay? It might not have been the sexy pick last night, might have been, and that's the thing for, I think, a lot of us fans, we get enamored with mock drafts, and we hear these talking heads, and we highlight a few. It's like we fall in love with our guys, and then when that guy is not picked, we get a little upset initially. This is a solid pick. I'm here to tell you, Packers fans, this is a solid pick. It's a good pick, and I think the way the board fell yesterday, it's setting up for a potential fantastic day for Green Bay. Again, as Goody said in his post presser, it's a big day for the franchise, and he's exactly right. He is exactly right. He's got an opportunity to add some serious talent to this. If he wants a safety, all of them are available, even Cooper. He wants a linebacker, all of them are available. He wants a maybe speedster running back to pair up with Jacob Jones, all of them are available. You want some wide receivers? There were some wide receivers taken yesterday. There's still some really good ones available. You want some more interior offensive linemen? You got that. You want some defensive tackles? There's still some dudes out there. And Green Bay, they can do some stuff, whether they wanna move across the board, move up. They got some ammunition to do some things. They still got 10 picks, 4 of them today. Package maybe some day 3 picks together, move up a little bit, or maybe even acquire more picks this year. Don't matter. They've got some wiggle room. I'm excited to see today. Oh, even corner, right? You want another corner? A lot of those guys, Kool-Aid's still out there. There's only, what, 3 of them taken in the first round? Everything got pushed back. Everything got pushed back, and it benefits Green Bay. So, even with this first, second round pick coming up, number 41 today, there's gonna be some talent there, even if they stay at that spot. Because you look at the teams ahead of them, Buffalo now sitting at 33, they moved the spot back. You think they're probably gonna take a wide receiver. Could they use that pick to maybe trade for a wide receiver, whether it's Brandon Ayuk or a T. Higgins? I don't know, but you think they're probably gonna get a receiver with the first one. You look at some other ones, and it's like, all right, there's gonna be a really good player at 41 if Green Bay stays there. So when I look at it, when I see, who's still available out there, my top 5, if you will, my wish list, and there's more than 5 that I would be absolutely happy with pick 41. But you got Cooper, right? You got Cooper. You still put him up there. I think he's a guy again that don't pigeonhole him as just an outside corner or just as a slot corner. I want that guy to be kind of all over. He's a little bit smaller than a Kyle Hamilton, again, depending on which network you were watching last night. And we've mentioned this before, but like NFL Network, they were talking about comp Cooper DeJean. He's a little bit smaller than or a comp for Cooper DeJean, Kyle Hamilton. He's a little bit smaller than Kyle Hamilton. Another comp I've seen is like a bigger version of an Eric Weddle. Had a nice career in the NFL. So yeah, he's easily on my top 5. Easily in my top 5. You throw in Kool-Aid if you want a corner in there. I'd be fine with that too. Throw in Cooper for linebacker. He'd be in there for me too. Peyton Wilson if you want. The one thing I'm a little concerned about Peyton Wilson is that he has suffered a quite a few injuries throughout his career. Junior Colson's another linebacker out there. We want to go with a little bit of a relationship. Max Melton, Bo Melton's brother. He's a corner. He's still there too. Defensive tackles. You got a Chris Jenkins. Little family heritage. His uncle was Cullen that played for Green Bay. Or do you want a brand new center and keep Zach Tom somewhere, maybe at guard? Jackson Powers Johnson's still there too. I mean, so it's hard for me to just pick a top 5 here because I'm looking at these guys and I'm like, dang, there's some guys in here that I would be absolutely okay with. But when I look at it, I'm looking at Cooper. I think you start there. Heck, I would maybe even throw in some defensive linemen. Fisk from Florida State's on there. You've got the kid from Illinois, Newton. I know some people are saying he's a little undersized here, but now in a 4-3, Green Bay really could potentially build up their defensive line. Kool-Aid I'd throw in there. Cooper I'd throw in there. There's a lot of guys available, and I can't wait for tonight to see what Green Bay does. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, Packers fans, if you're still on the fence about last night, they didn't get Cooper. You weren't pumped about it. We're good. We're in a really good spot right now, okay? We're in a good spot. Morgan's a solid pick. He's a starter right away, in my opinion. He gives you flexibility to do some things on offensive line now that you can put together what you want for your starting group. And the way the board fell after the first round, it pushed a lot of guys down that if I'm Goody, I'm licking my chops right now. I'm feeling pretty good where I'm at right now. In fact, if anything, I'm trying to maybe see how can I acquire another second rounder without giving up my third rounders. Can I package some things here? Maybe even some future stuff. There's just that many really good players, in my opinion, that are still sitting there. And what's fun about day 2, it comes off firing right away. It comes off like teams are going to go up there. You got some movement right away, maybe some trades going in there because you got these teams that didn't realize this guy was going to be still available at the beginning of the second round. So you've got a lot of movement going around. You got quick picks coming off the board here. It comes fast and heavy. Man, I'm excited, man. Oh, dude, so I am so pumped up here. I don't know if I'm going to be upset necessarily with what they do with second round. I mean, I'll be one of the first ones to say too. Like I wasn't 100% sold on maybe getting another wide receiver here, but looking at some of the guys that are still available out there, Adonai Mitchell from Texas, he's still available. Ladd McConkey, still available. You got Keon Coleman from Florida State, still available. So if Green Bay wanted to pick up a they got an opportunity, a pretty darn good. I mean, even especially if they won maybe a little bit of a bigger one, a Donnie Mitchell 6'2", Keon Coleman 6'3". Mitchell ran a 4.34. So if you want a speedster at that wide receiver position, you could go Mitchell from Texas. Coleman is a bigger one where one player I mean, he's got a slower 40, but he's a bigger wideout. Maybe kind of like I seen one player comp, Drake London. Remember him coming out of was it USC? He's now with Atlanta. I had Ladd as my final pick in the first round there. Thought one of the better route runners in this entire draft. So there's even options at wide receiver that I don't know if I could be too upset about if they decide to go that route. What do you want to see Green Bay do? You got 4 picks. You don't have to give me a player. You don't have to give me a player, but what maybe position are you kind of seeing like, okay, this is what this is what I would like to see Goody and the Packers do today. Hit me up. All right. Let me know. Give me your scouting report. Take a quick break. We'll finish up the first hour here. Get back to some more of your thoughts. Coming up after these quick words. Are you hitting the road a lot, or let me rephrase. Are you hitting the road a lot lately, or are you getting ready to? Hey, you better make sure your vehicle is ready to put in all of those miles, which means it's a good idea to get some new tires and get an oil change to help your vehicle perform at its best this traveling season. Where do you go, though? That's simple. ASAP Used Auto Parts in Eau Claire. Not only does ASAP Used Auto Parts have high quality used auto parts to help your budget out, but they also are your go-to place when it comes to oil changes and new tires. Be sure to make sure your vehicle is ready to hit the road for another traveling season. Set up your appointment with ASAP Used Auto Parts today and have a safe and memorable traveling season here. Brian on our video stream over there, and Goody we trust. He has cooked the past two drafts. Who knows? Maybe we still get DeJean in the second. I trust what the Packers have been doing with the draft. More protection for love. For all the changes in the NFL, it's to me, it's still up front. It's still offensive line, defensive line play. The biggest thing that really improved, what allowed the Lions to take a massive jump, in my opinion, is they invested in an offensive line. They built from there and worked their way up. One of the better offensive lines in the league last year. And they were a half of a game away from going to the Super Bowl. Kansas City's worked on their offensive line, especially the interior mostly. You look at some of the better teams in the league, it's offensive line play. A big reason. Now you got Jordan Love. You want to provide that man with protection. He's going to get a big deal coming up here, probably next month, a couple months here. He's going to get a new contract. You want to invest in that. You want to make sure that he's got, clean pockets, room to work with. Make sure he's at his best. How do you do that? You invest up front. So I think the best way to describe this Jordan Morgan pick, like, it's not like I guess the best way, my best reaction with it was, yeah, okay, cool, I'm good. It wasn't like, holy crap, can't believe we got that guy. You know what I mean? Like, just like fist pumping and all that, just like so jacked. I was like, okay, yeah, cool, okay, I got it. I'm good. Makes sense. All right, let's go. And it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's just like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. I'm good with it. Tyler Guyton was still there, right? That was who I had mocked going to Green Bay. Guyton was still there. Barton was still there if you wanted an interior offensive lineman. I honestly feel like between those three, they feel like Morgan provides a little bit more versatility. That, yes, you can play him at either tackle spot. You can play him at either guard spot. Duke Barton was kind of viewed a little bit more, even though he played left tackle at Duke, sure seemed like the majority view him more interior line center. So maybe Green Bay was one of those teams that didn't necessarily view him as a tackle and, didn't want to maybe limit themselves with just an interior O lineman. And with Guyton, that guy could turn out to be a fantastic, he's more of a guy that you see it, the talent is there, and maybe there's still some untapped potential there. Part of my thinking was if they drafted Tyler Guyton, I didn't know if he was going to be a starter right away. I didn't know if they would plug him in at right tackle right away, or if they would kind of have him as their swing tackle, back up a little bit, similar to, Balaga when he was first drafted. They still had Tauscher. They still had Clifton. Then he ended up coming in because Tauscher got hurt. And I didn't know if Guyton was a guy that you could start day one right away. Morgan, I feel like, is a guy you can start day one. I think that's a guy you can throw in there and start day one. Now, whether that was the main deciding factor for Goody and the Packers, I don't know. But considering, those three guys were still there on the board, I just wonder if they went with a guy that gives them a little bit more versatility and gives them the opportunity to start day one right away when you factor all those into it. That's just my opinion. That's kind of where I'm at with that. And I know everybody wants to grade drafts right now. They want to grade first round picks. I don't want to get into grading. I mean, if anything, we can assess, talk about maybe the value of that pick at that position or our thoughts on going with that guy at that point in time. Like I don't want to give letter grades to it. We don't know how the guy's gonna go. We don't know how the player's gonna perform. Let's give it a little bit. So I get it why people do it. It's content, it's draws attention, that sort of thing. So I don't like to do letter grades based off of the player because we have no freaking idea. We have no idea. But based off of potential and the value and what he potentially brings to the table, I like it. I get it. It's to me, it's like it's solid. I don't know if he's going to turn into an all-pro left tackle or an all-pro guard or what, if he's going to be the next David Bakhtiari. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. No doubt, though, I think the biggest. Oh, by the way, Jim asked how many did I get on my mock. I got first rounders. I picked 28 of the 32. I had 11 direct hits. 11 direct hits. I'll take that. I'll take it. Just to put it in comparison, like Peter Schrager from Good Morning Football, he had 29 of 32 and 13 direct hits. So I'll take mine for being a nobody, essentially. So yeah, I'll take it. No doubt, though, I think the biggest surprise of the draft was what Atlanta did at number 8, Michael Penix Jr. By the way, again, I don't know which network you're watching, and I know networks don't want to tip picks. They secretly tip picks. They secretly do it. Like when Atlanta was on the clock, and I was watching the NFL Network one, and they went to Ian Rappaport, and Ian Rappaport, says, "Hey, Michael Penix could be the pick here. They brought him in. They really like him. Blah 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 blah, and all that." And weird, Michael Penix is a pick, or they go these different routes where they say, "Man, this guy would be really good here. It fits." Blah blah, and then lo and behold, that's the pick enough. They're not tipping him, but they're kind of giving the impression like, I don't know if it's a little like, "Hey, look at us, we got that one right," sort of thing. You could kind of tell. They're not coming out directly saying that's the guy, but you could kinda tell and read between the lines that, yeah, they know who the pick is. That they know who it is, but they're just wording it a little bit like, "Hey, watch out, could be this one. Oh, look, we got it right. We got it right." But that one to me is definitely the biggest question mark because Michael Penix Jr. is a little bit older too. And if he sits for a few years, he's going to be like 28 or 29 at that point in time. To me, it just doesn't make sense when you sign. Like, you brought in Kirk Cousins for the next few years. It wasn't like you had a quarterback on your roster, an aging quarterback, and maybe, his contract was coming up in the next couple of years or something like that. And then you bring in a quarterback. Yes, I'm kind of talking about Green Bay here, with the Rodgers thing and then the Favre one. You brought the guy in. You signed him to a long-term massive deal. And then you use a top 10 pick on another quarterback. I don't quite understand it. And I know Atlanta's GM Terry Fontenot said, "Hey, we don't think we're going to be in a position to draft a quarterback like this because we're going to be in the back ends and all that." Hey, you still might because you got like no defensive help. I'm sorry, but you don't. You got a guy now that you're hoping isn't going to be playing for the next few years. How does that help your team, especially get to that back end? I don't I don't get that one. I don't understand that one. That one was the big head scratcher to me. And I think for a lot of people. I think for a lot of people. Yeah, and just saw this too. The Atlanta GM said if he sits for 4 or 5 years, that's a great problem to have because we're doing so well at that position. That's no. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but you had an opportunity to get the best defensive player on the board, whoever you thought that best defensive player was on the board. You had that chance at number 8. Or you could have played a little gamesmanship and maybe tried to move back a couple spots or a few spots and probably still got Michael Penix Jr. Maybe if you stayed above the Raiders, who were picking at 13, it just, I don't know. It was a head scratcher. We'll see how it works out, though, right? We'll see how it works out. Maybe it'll work out for him, but a little bit of a head scratcher. All right, we'll talk some more draft, but hey, keep your thoughts coming, all right? Hit me up with a text, whether you are a Packers fan, a Vikings fan, a Bears fan, a Lions fan, whoever. Let me know. Hit us up with a text at 715-830-1912. All right, good morning, Morgs.
On a scale of 1 to 5 draft beers, where are you at after the draft? Do you feel it was positive, 5, or do you feel like it was not what you were looking to get out of it?
No, it was good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you're on the higher end, the 4 to 5 range?
Yep.
Sporting your Packers gear again. Nice to see. Now, did Hudson watch it with you?
A little bit. Then he kind of fell asleep. So
it was late hours for that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to do a little bit of Friday mashup. You get to pick a number, a random number between 1 and 25, and answer questions for us. Going to take a little hiatus from the draft action. Pick a number, any number.
We'll go with 13.
13. All right. What is your go-to guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure?
Like bad music. What's the worst TV show you got into? Think about it that way. Guilty pleasure. Like I'll watch me some Full House. I enjoy.
I wouldn't say that's a bad show though.
It's not a bad show, but it's kind of a guilty pleasure if you look back on the old episodes.
I mean, guilty pleasure. I mean, like I'm a nerd for documentaries. Is that a guilty pleasure?
I don't think so. Documentaries can be good. What was the last good doc you saw?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm waiting for some good ones to come out. I was not impressed with that Unexplained one I was talking to you about a couple weeks ago.
Octopus?
No, this one had a mixture of like aliens and then ghosts and all that stuff on Netflix.
Okay, so speaking of that, we had a story a couple days ago about NASA getting involved in the hunt for Nessie. Now, you're a Bigfoot guy, you're an alien guy, you're a ghost guy. Does it drop off in the water?
Yeah.
No time?
No time.
Not even a little fraction.
To me, it's in a lake, and I get it. It's a deep lake.
Okay.
There's areas there, but I mean, come on, it's confined into an area. It's not the ocean.
Right.
Right.
Now, are you open to the ocean holding something like that we haven't discovered yet?
You know what? I don't know if you've heard this theory. UFOs come from the ocean.
Oh my gosh, where do you find this stuff?
It's on documentaries, man.
Okay, how do they come from the ocean?
Apparently, because we don't know what's at the bottom of the ocean.
Okay.
Whoop, flying up. Apparently, people have seen UFOs come out of the water.
Uh-huh. And what are the chances of that?
I don't, space coming through the bottom of, I don't know how physics work.
Here's how my next question to you would be. Do you get into this stuff because you think it's true or because you want it to be true?
I think there's a small fraction of stuff that's true because part of my brain works is like, how do so many people see the same stuff?
So
if
it's
too
coincidental, you're saying, to not have some shred of truth to it.
I don't think the whole story is true, but I think there's got to be something there.
Okay, if you could pick one, you could see a Bigfoot for real, or you could be abducted by aliens, but they would bring you back.
Bigfoot.
All the whole time?
Yeah.
All right, you better keep looking then.
Yep.
All right, there's a chance. I'm saying there's a chance. Have you seen Harry and the Hendersons?
No.
You should watch Harry and the Hendersons.
There's a Sasquatch movie out that I want to go see. Jesse Eisenberg's in it.
I know. I saw that and thought of you actually. Yeah. You know how long it took him to get in costume? He said it was miserable.
Yeah. I want to see
costume, Kasper, costume, not real.
is Arbor Day. The observance began back in 1872 in Nebraska, and now all 50 states and many countries have some sort of observance of planting trees. That's a look at food and farm news this morning on Sports Talk 105.1 and AM 790. I'm Bob Bosold.
Protect your family, your phone, and your furry friends with life, electronic device, and pet health insurance. Get a quote at Progressive.com. That's Progressive.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, sports aficionados and armchair quarterbacks, welcome to the Dan Kasper Show, where sports passion meets expert analysis. Dan's encyclopedic knowledge and infectious passion for all things sports is both impressive and sad.
I have many leather-bound books.
So get ready to laugh, cheer, and maybe even facepalm a few times.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
It's the Dan Kasper Show.
Second hour on this Friday morning kicks off right now. Big thanks, everybody, for tuning in wherever, however you're tuning in. The video stream hopping with comments right now. Check it out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Chime in over there. I'll get to everybody's comments over there coming up in just a little bit. Got some text to catch up on as well. We've got Brandon Berg who'll be joining us. We're going to talk some Brewers and some Bucks, but also get back to the NFL draft, day 2, rounds 2 and 3, coming up later on today. We kick off this hour, though, a little inside the training room.
Paging Dr. Crow. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow. You better call me a doctor. On the Dan Kasper Show. Somebody give me a doctor.
He is Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning. First, before we get to some of the injuries, your thoughts on your Vikings and the amount of movement they made yesterday, and who they came away with.
Well, that's a loaded question. I got to say the quarterback flurry, shall we call it, at the top of that draft board was crazy.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us saw that coming to a certain degree, but 6 guys in the first, 12 picks, I think. Yeah, that was something. So, I watched a good amount of Michigan football this year. Certainly, obviously, in the playoffs, a lot of us watched JJ play. He certainly wasn't the focal point of the offense, but he seemed to be a good game manager. But maybe they just didn't have to call him to make the big plays, and they relied on their defense and running game. But I guess I thought that he went higher than I was expecting him to go. So I am happy we didn't draft. A lot of people projected us to trade up to 5 in drafting, so I'm glad we didn't do that. But obviously, we did spend a little bit of capital to move up one spot from the Jets. And then the Turner pick, that I'm happy with. I think he is going to be a stud. So now, again, we gave up what I think 3rd and a 4th round pick in addition to our 1st round swap. So definitely spent some capital on that as well. But I think he's going to be an immediate impact player in the need for us. So I like him. Again, especially at the quarterback position, this is going to be a move that we won't really know the answer to for a couple of years, right? But I think, mixed bag. I can't say I was super excited about the JJ, but I'm excited about Turner. So
Awesome. All right. I think it was a good night overall for NFC North across the board. A lot of movement for NFC North teams yesterday. So,
yeah.
All right. So I want to start off with some hoops talk. Giannis is still out. He's still listed for doubtful for tonight. He's doing a little bit more, it sounds like. Do you think there's more going on with his calf injury, or is this still kind of figure, in your opinion, a typical timeline? Because I think for a lot of us Bucks fans, we heard Dame say he was back after 8 days with a similar injury to this. This has been longer than 8 days going on. Is it still maybe because of his Achilles tendonitis, if it's on that same leg, that it could affect that? Or do you think this is pretty normal for a typical recovery time?
I don't think it's outside the window of what I'd consider atypical. And it is, especially when you have another teammate making a comment saying, I got back in X amount of time. I mean, injuries are very different. Even when they have, quote, the same injury, it's never the same injury. So I would say to say that this guy came back in 10 days and this guy in 12 and that guy in 14, it doesn't have to do with how tough you are or how quick your body's going to recover per se. It really has to do with the severity of the injury. So, looking at this is, again, well within a window what I consider normal potential recovery. Now, to your point, is it possible as Achilles tendonitis is playing a role? Absolutely. I mean, I think that's certainly going to, because as you kind of rehab the calf, the Achilles is critical in that. And if that's aggravated as well, because, we don't really know how severe that was coming into it. So that could be adding a little bit of fuel to the fire. So that could slow him down a bit. But again, it's been, what has it been, 2.5 weeks, 2 weeks,
Yeah.
something like that?
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, that's not, I mean, when we see musculoskeletal injuries like this, you see a quote calf in this case. I think the soleus is what the MRI showed, which is one of the quote calf muscles. I mean, 2 weeks is definitely what I'd consider within a normal time frame.
With his teammate now, Chris Middleton, who had an ankle sprain in game 2, he did return and he played 36 minutes in the game, but now he's listed as questionable. And Doc Rivers said yesterday there is a little bit of concern there. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, the guy played 36 minutes. Why wouldn't he be able to go here? Do you think that's just because the swelling started to pop up now for that ankle?
Yeah, probably. As you come back, it can be an up and down journey where people feel good, go out and either practice or play, and all of a sudden things flare up just a little bit. And so my guess is they've had a little bit of one of those quote setbacks. But again, that a lot of times those guys will be game time decisions as you get closer, just to see how you get out there, get moving, get some treatments on it, and just see how it feels. So those ones can have a big question mark next to them for sure.
I know this isn't in the orthopedic world, but this dropped yesterday with Joel Embiid, and he said he's been kind of dealing with Bell's palsy since the play-in tournament, and he's been playing these games here. How difficult do you think it is for him to go out there playing an NBA game when he's battling or suffering from Bell's palsy right now?
Yeah, so Bell's palsy is generally a case where you get partial paralysis of the side of the face. There's a lot of different reasons for it. By far, the most common is going to be some kind of post-viral issue. So my guess is that's what it's stemming from. I don't know why he had it. I did see that, but I didn't see why. But in either event, it generally resolves on its own. The biggest thing I would imagine would be, kind of the droop on the eye, if that would affect your vision on the court. Although if you look at it, it doesn't look like his eyes that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly can affect the muscles around your mouth, so potentially breathing as well. But he doesn't look like he has a severe complete paralysis. So my guess is it's not actually as big a deal as it may seem. Certainly it can look a little different, but I bet it's actually not that big of a burden for him, truthfully.
Gotcha. Now going back to the NFL here. So Packers pick yesterday was Jordan Morgan, who's offensive lineman from Arizona. And I had a few people reach out to me on the X and Twitter. They didn't like it because, well, 2 years ago he tore his ACL, and he did play last year. He tore it in 2022. He did play last year. He played in the Senior Bowl 14 months after ACL. But there's still this narrative well, he tore an ACL. He's damaged goods. Why would they get a first round pick? And I don't know if it's because of the David Bakhtiari thing. We're still,
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, still nervous about that. But the fact that he played a season on it, he played in the Senior Bowl and all that, he's got to be good with that, right?
Yeah, and so the recovery following ACL reconstruction is a very high rate of success. So if people have a relatively straightforward ACL, and we don't have to do a big meniscectomy or a cartilage injury that goes along with it, the success rate from that is very high. And so even with some of those other injuries, we still actually have a pretty solid success rate. So now, I can tell you one thing, that they did their due diligence. I mean, these teams, when they're thinking about drafting these guys, they will do physical exams, they will do MRIs. And so they're going to see, and they're going to say, look, the graph looks good, the cartilage looks good, the menisci look good. If that's the case, that leg is, I mean, you never want to say 100%, but about as close to it as you can be. I don't want to say it's just routine, but when they do well, it is the point where you can kind of put that in the back burner and say, I don't think that's going to be an issue for him in his career.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if you heard this or knew about this. So, like the Colts drafted, I'm going to mispronounce his name, Latu from UCLA, Leah Latu. There was a story that he had a neck injury and he was actually medically could not play. Like they wouldn't clear him in 2020, they wouldn't clear him in 2021 due to that neck injury. And then he ends up getting cleared and he comes back and he plays and now he's a first round pick. I even think they said on the broadcast it was like Peyton Manning's doctor is the one who cleared him. And we know Peyton Manning had
Mhm.
that neck injury there. But
Yeah.
is there, I mean, the fact that he plays edge rusher and he had those neck issues there, I know last week I asked you if you were a team physician and you're looking at guys, would there be anything that would worry you with an injury like that? Would that be something that really would concern you drafting him that high?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to understand the question is why was he not cleared?
Mhm.
But yeah, for sure. I mean, necks and back injuries like that, they are a big red flag because I mean those can be unfortunately career ending, and we've seen that too many times with athletes in football. So, I mean, does he have congenital stenosis, so like narrowing of the neck? Did he have like a pinched nerve that was causing weakness and like a radiculopathy? I mean, some of those things are things that can go away and go away completely. Some are just the way you're built. So, for example, congenital stenosis, where you just have narrowing of the neck, those guys are just more prone to having stingers or even potentially transient quadriplegia, where they like get hit and like go paralyzed for a second, which is about as scary as it gets. Um, if it was something like that, he likely wouldn't have got cleared back. So my assumption it was something more like a temporary condition. But if he had a year or two that it was affecting him, yeah, I honestly don't know the full backdrop to that, but at least the initial story you're telling me, I have to imagine that it had to do something with a nerve that was being affected, which resulted in weakness, which is why they wouldn't clear him. And then if he was cleared, that means that it did resolve. So did he ever have surgery on that? Do you know? Did they say that, or did it just resolve on its
I
own?
haven't seen. So I don't know if you know Dr. Robert Watkins. Does that name kind of ring a bell? For I'm reading a little bit here. Um,
Okay.
yeah, it said that Watkins cleared him to return to football after a battery of tests, but Washington
Hmm.
would still not clear him to play for the Huskies, and that's why he transferred
Okay.
to UCLA. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Oh,
mean, that does.
he did have
Oh, go
surgery.
ahead.
He did have surgery, neck fusion surgery, to try to repair lingering numbness.
There you go. So yeah, he probably had a radiculopathy that caused a focal weakness, and a lot of times that's one of the criteria we use for getting athletes back after any kind of injury to the neck is like you have to have full strength. Um, so it's possible that that lingered for a while, and if it resolved, yeah. But I mean, I will tell you that's a red flag. I mean, it's just you don't want to just scratch a guy off and say, hey, there's no chance he'll ever make it. But you definitely worry about another injury with a level fused. He's certainly going to be at higher risk for issues with the what we call adjacent levels. So let's say there was a C4-5, you were about 3-4, and then also a 5-6 on the other side of it. So they must feel good about it. He clearly has upside because he was a productive player, no
Yeah.
doubt about that. So I mean that's I would say that is a roll of the dice. Their medical staff must have felt happy about where he was at, but it's going to be something that I'm sure affected his draft stats. A guy that maybe could have went higher, but that probably scared some teams off.
Yeah. Last one for you here, Austin. So baseball, Wade Miley, Brewers pitcher Wade Miley, he's back on the injured list, and it's for what they're calling elbow inflammation. He says though, because apparently he's been battling bone spurs in that elbow for a while now. He says this feels
Mhm.
different than a bone spur. So when we hear, I mean, when I hear elbow inflammation on your throwing elbow and you're a pitcher, I start to get a little bit worried about that, and especially when he says it feels different than bone spurs, which he's been dealing with for a while.
Yeah. So bone spurs are kind of a nebulous term that we use for any kind of projection off of a bone that's not maybe necessarily normally there. Sometimes they can be anatomic variants. Sometimes they can be related to phenomena in the elbow. Kind of to bring it back to what you're alluding to, the old UCL or Tommy John ligament. One of the signs of chronic partial tearing of the UCL. So what happens is the UCL opens up. So as they throw, the inner part of the elbow opens up, and the olecranon, which is kind of the tip of your elbow, will shift over medially and can rub and cause some spurs there. So when that's kind of a classic test question that we'll get is if you see spurring there, what are you worried about? That you get worried about the UCL. So if he has that constellation of issues going on, it certainly has to raise the red flag of like, is it potential that we're dealing with something more serious than just a little bit of inflammation, that we're actually dealing with? Not the inflammation is not there, it's there. It's just, is it coming from a bigger problem? And so I can imagine that if this becomes a recurrent issue, he may be looking at, potentially a procedure to either clean up those spurs, if that's all that it is, or unfortunately, if it is those spurs coming from a UCL problem, then you're looking at a Tommy John type procedure.
Man, good stuff as always, man. We appreciate you hopping on. And I was going to say good luck today for round 2, but I don't think you have any picks today for round 2. So
no, I don't think. Yeah, we are. I think we expended this year and next year, so
yeah.
we're going to be. But I think if you like your guy and you want to go for him, I mean, there's I keep my finger on the pulse of a lot of Viking chatter, and some people are upset about that. But if you hit big on a draft pick, it's worth a couple picks. It really is. Now, of course, if you swing and miss and spend a couple picks, that's a big error. So, I think at this point, we're starting to get to the spot where our GM and head coach are, they're still young. But I think at some point now we got to get to the spot where they got to start producing. And now they're starting to, these are moves that are going to make and break careers. So I certainly hope it's making them, not breaking them.
Right.
But time will tell.
Absolutely. All right, dude. We appreciate it as always, buddy. And we'll catch up with you again soon. Have a fantastic weekend. Okay.
Yeah. Take care, Dan.
You got it. There you go. Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine inside the training room. Another fantastic segment right there. We're going to take a quick break, and Brandon's here. We'll get back to some draft talk coming up after these quick words. Speaking of Green and Gold Chalk Talk, there is a new episode up that was just posted up this morning, so you can check it out on YouTube. It'll be up on Facebook a little bit later on, or on Twitter / the X over there. Also, want to remind you, coming up tomorrow, Mike's Star Market, our good friends from Mike's Star Market, they've got their race car show. They got a farmer's market going on tomorrow starting at 10 a.m. Also, you could snack on some of their famous Mike's Star Market skinless wieners for $2 and $1 from each of those are going to go help fund Backyard Dreams. So big thanks to Mike's Star Market for that. That's coming up tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m. goes to 10 to 2. Get it? 2. Okay. Yeah. So, but again, big thanks to Mike's Star Market. They're always a big time supporter of Backyard Dreams over there. Couple, actually, quite a few messages to catch up on here. I'll try to get to everybody's here. We've got James. I'm glad you brought up what you did about Jordan Morgan. I watched an interview he gave about a month ago, and my first thought was this is the kind of character person the Packers try to find. With what little I found on Morgan last night, it wouldn't surprise me if pro scouts would see this as the right pick, even though he wasn't on the educated fans' radar screens. We got Doug on there saying, glad it was offensive line. Would have preferred Guyton or Barton, but I'm so glad it wasn't DeGene Cooper. I got one person not in favor of that. We've have Rick. I think the reason they took Morgan is so they can move Zach Tom to center. They envision that being the best line for Jacobs to run behind and give them the play action ability to get the ball to young receivers. Packers said they viewed Tom as a Hall of Fame center. That said, this was a good building block pick at 25 to get a big tackle with a lot of experience is a good thing. Brandon, draft last night. I think the NFC North had a good night overall. What were your thoughts on? First, let's start off with your Vikings. I know I texted you and such, and you had a little fun on Twitter saying if my Vikings don't come away with
a quarterback of some kind, I was not going to be happy.
Yes,
but they did.
So are you happy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought JJ McCarthy going into it was a realistic possibility. I'm glad that they are able to do it where they did. My fear was trading up to like 4 or 5 to get him because I didn't think that was, would have been a good use of, kind of pick value. But as we saw the way it developed, I mean, that's not how it is. I mean, getting someone at 10 or 11 is a lot better, it's a lot different because obviously, they were able to, keep some of that draft capital, which they ended up using, later on to trade back up with the other first round pick to get Dallas Turner.
So, yeah, I mean, it was after the Giants didn't select him. I got to imagine everybody's like, okay, it's JJ. And then they trade up one spot.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know which broadcast you were watching.
I was watching NFL Network.
Oh, so you heard what Daniel Jeremiah said. If I'm so-and-so, I have a little gamesmanship here and just kind of say.
And I mean, I get it from both ends because if you're the Jets, look, the Jets are not going to take JJ McCarthy. But
they should have. That would have been funny.
It would have. Well, either Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers was going to get got, I guess. And it was Kirk Cousins. But no, but if you're the Jets, like, you're not picking him. But if the team directly behind you does, would have interest. But also the two teams, Denver and Las Vegas, right behind the Vikings, could possibly too. That's a really good spot to be in. And look, at the end of the day, I think the Vikings traded a 4th and a 5th, and then picked up a 6th in that trade. So it wasn't like it was monumental. But still, like I think that was a smart move by the Jets. And if you're the Vikings, I mean, you make that trade because you want to make sure, like, you don't want It also tells me that they probably had McCarthy ranked, obviously above Bo Nix, but like, probably by a significant amount, because otherwise, if they're ranked the same, then you don't care. You'll just take one of them and be fine. But if that's your guy or that's the guy you really want to go with, you pay, you swap around some day 3 picks to make sure that happens.
What would you say to those out there that say JJ McCarthy is just a product of Michigan, the system at Michigan? Because there are some people out there saying, okay, is he a guy that can, play at the next level? I mean, what was a comp? Alex Smith, I think I saw out there, and I'm a believer game manager is not, I think that gets used too negatively so many times. But what would you say to those people that are saying, yeah, JJ McCarthy, he was just a product of the system?
I think you can still see within kind of when he would manage the game, like you can still see the flashes of it. And, I think, as we saw with the Chargers' first pick, like Jim Harbaugh is always going to want to run the ball. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who his quarterback is. But I think you saw kind of the bits and pieces of being able to do the things that NFL quarterbacks can do. Certainly seems like he kind of has that temperament and that brain for it. someone that I think is going to get along really well with Kevin O'Connell, just from a two dudes standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I that to me that was the way everything kind of fell. I thought it was a decent spot for the Vikings to be in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Chicago, obviously, Caleb Williams, we knew that. Rome going at number 9. He's going with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Can't say Caleb Williams doesn't have any weapons to throw to. Detroit gets a corner. Corners fell, and they come away with, I think, a really good one in Arnold, from Alabama. And then Green Bay gets Morgan, which, I mean, he was Mel Kiper's one of his original picks for Green Bay in the first mock in February. And I know when the name was there, I just had a reaction like, oh, okay, yeah. And I'll be honest, like when I was doing my mocks, I was like, I wouldn't mind trying to get Morgan in a second. I just didn't think he'd be there in a second. And I actually had a mock to San Francisco in the first round at that back end. But, I look at Morgan, I know there's a lot of fans because Cooper was still there. Guess what? Cooper is still there.
Yes.
All the safeties are still there. All the running backs are still there. All the linebackers are still there. There's a ton of corners that are still there. But from an outsider, and when I say outsider, non-Packers fan, you see them go after a guy like Morgan who can play all the spots besides center, who dominated at the Senior Bowl, didn't lose a one-on-one rep. What was your thoughts on the pick?
I thought it made sense. I mean, there's a few spots that I think the Packers realistically could have went,
Mm-hmm.
and line certainly was one of them. And kind of for the reasons you mentioned about Zach Tom, possibly moving inside.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that made a lot of sense. And you bring in a guy that's got a lot of experience at the at the college level, and I think there's a lot to like there. So no, it made sense. I know sometimes, especially once you get beyond like the top half of the first round, offensive lineman picks aren't going to be like those picks that really invigorate a fan base.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean they're bad. I mean, it's a good pick, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it allows them, when you add in the Andre Dillard signing too, which I'm not putting a lot of stock in Andre Dillard, but it gives you that flexibility now, where I think they can put their 5 best out there. They can put Zach Tom at center now if they want to. They can do some different things and kind of do some mixing and matching there. But I look at day 2 now, Brandon, when, I just mentioned all those safeties, all those corners, all those linebackers, all those running backs. Heck, there's even still some good receivers if you want to go out there available. I mean, Green Bay's got the 9th pick, for second round. They got 2 second rounders and 2 fourth rounders, or 2 third rounders, excuse me, coming up here today. There's going to be a lot. I thought it was interesting too, and I liked the comment from Goody yesterday after the press conference or during his presser saying tomorrow, which is now today, is a big day for our franchise. Like, I think he understands, like, we got an opportunity to add some players to this roster.
Right. Inevitably, on day 2, you're always going to have like 5 or 6 guys that pretty much everyone assume will be a first round pick that aren't. I mean, and obviously Cooper DeJean's one of them, but there's several others too.
Yep.
And that's, if you have those day 2 picks, especially front half of the second round, you can still find yourself some really good value.
Mm-hmm. And that's where you see a lot of times too, like when day 2 kicks off, there's a lot of movement right away.
Yeah, a lot of trades because teams point out who they want and they go get them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. I mean, it comes fast right away, and then it kind of just settles down a little bit there. But that's why it's like, don't think you okay. They got 9th, you got a little time. There might be some movement right away.
Right
at that point.
Yeah, there might be at the top or some of those guys we mentioned that are still there. If a team really wants them, they may move up to get them.
Mm-hmm. So I think, if you're the NFC North, if you're a fan of an NFC North team, I think every fan base should be feeling pretty good right now. Is that fair to say? I mean,
I think so.
Lions got a corner. They needed a corner. And
they didn't trade out the first round pick.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And they got a really good corner. Minnesota got a couple. I mean, they didn't have to trade both their first rounders to move up to get a quarterback.
They're going to have as of right now, they got a first rounder. We go next year. That's something we had talked about where, they don't have very many picks besides that, but
exactly,
they're still hanging on to that first round pick.
So they got the quarterback that they probably thought they were going to get. And then they got a really good edge rusher. Chicago's got a boatload of offensive weapons now to go with Caleb Williams. So I think NFC North overall, I thought had a solid night last night when we look at it. The one team that didn't, and it still puzzles me, is Atlanta. And what's going on? I mean, I don't understand it, the thought process. Like, I know their GM said, hey, we might not be in this position. We expect to be drafting later in the first rounds in a few years here. Okay, but you have weaknesses on defense. You had your pick of the litter for any defensive player you wanted.
Heck, at that point, you could have traded down a little bit.
Exactly.
And then maybe not necessarily pick Penix just with the way quarterbacks are going, but you could maybe trade down a little bit and still address that defense, which, as you said, needs it.
Yeah. Your new coach is defensive minded. You just signed Kirk Cousins. The big one is you signed Kirk Cousins. It's not like the Packers where you had a guy in Rodgers and Favre, if you will, and then you sign somebody or you draft somebody. This is literally, you haven't played a snap yet with Kirk Cousins, and you're already drafting his replacement. And lo and behold, he's not a young guy. Penix is, because I saw their GM say, good thing is if he doesn't play for 4 or 5 years, it's a good thing because that means the position's playing well. But Penix will be 28 or 29 at that point.
Right.
I don't understand the logic of this.
Especially when you're an Atlanta team that after they signed Kirk Cousins, they were kind of looked at as the odds-on favorite in the NFC South.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you didn't do anything to kind of help you in the immediate. And people that listen here know I like Michael Penix.
Yeah.
I like him more than most. But that was a head scratcher.
So that's what I was going to ask you. For your team, would you rather have had Penix or McCarthy?
Those two, I thought they were really interchangeable for me as far as like if I was ranking them.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have been fine with either. There's once you got beyond that, Caleb Williams, each of the 5 quarterbacks who went in the first round had big time strengths, but also areas of concern. With Penix, it was the injury history.
Yeah.
With JJ McCarthy, it's what you mentioned earlier, where he wasn't really asked to be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fine with the way it worked out.
The one question, there was the Schefter thing from yesterday too, the little nugget that the Vikings did inquire about, hey, is Justin Herbert available from the Chargers? Which I've seen some people say, well, if Jim Harbaugh is saying J.J. McCarthy is the best college quarterback of all time, why doesn't he trade Justin Herbert then and draft that? There's a couple things to that. One, they would have taken on a massive dead cap hit, which they have already taken on a lot of dead cap hits. It would have been a killer for this year. You do have to factor that in. I will also say this too. Herbert is now proven at the pro level. You could say that about McCarthy. This is different now. You don't know what you're necessarily going to get.
Right, and I assume that a big reason Jim Harbaugh took that job is because he had Justin Herbert in place.
Yep.
It's not often that you join an NFL team that is picking in the top 5 in the draft, but has an established, like, upper level, good, younger quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't fault. Was it the other team? I think it was the Patriots. I don't fault the Patriots.
Never
the
hurts
Vikings.
To ask.
Yeah.
It never hurts to ask.
Especially when you've got that coach saying, "Hey, the guy I coached in college is the best." Tickle it out, see what happens. Does that? Is there something there? So, I do find it ironic. I don't know if anybody knows this, but so the Rams and Chargers share a stadium, right? How different both those teams go about their draft process. The Rams are on the beach. They got a party house. Chargers look like they're in a closet in their draft room over there. It's just completely different over there. But that's the styles now too. Yep. So, when I know you don't, do you have a 3rd round pick today?
Nope.
So you're done today.
As of right now, the Vikings do not have a day 2 pick. They're picking early in the 4th.
I saw this, and I wasn't quite sure if the Vikings were on there. So the Packers have 10 picks left for the next 2 days, 4 today alone. The rest of the NFC North, 12 picks and just 2 today.
Right, because I know the Bears were already a little understocked just from moves and stuff. And yeah, the Vikings, no day 2s, and then they're pretty busy on day 3.
Mm-hmm. So there's a chance. I think this NFC North is going to be fun this year.
So.
I really do. But there's going to be a lot of talent right away at this board. Is there anybody that, early day 2 that you're kind of intrigued with right now when you're looking at this? Is it Cooper? Is it somebody else?
I think it is. I think really highly of Cooper DeJean. I like the versatility.
Mm-hmm.
He can play corner. He can play safety.
Do you think that also hurts him for some draft boards?
Am I? I mean, and safety is not necessarily looked at as being a high profile spot as far as picking it, relatively early on in the draft. You don't see it a ton especially compared to cornerbacks. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, I think that's something that the right defensive coordinator would really like because there's just so much you can do with it.
Because the player I kept thinking about was like Brian Branch last year.
Yes.
And he was a guy that some people thought could be back end first round. I know Packers fans thought about him as a back end first round. He falls in a second. Lions pick him. And he had a pretty solid year. But he was a guy that's like, well, is he a safety? Is he a corner? He's a defensive back sort of thing.
One thing we know about Cooper DeJean, he has plenty of confidence. He said he could beat Caden Clark one-on-one.
Gotta like that,
right? That sounds like a cornerback to me, not a safety.
Yeah. Yep. So, here's the thing, Brandon. The first pick for Green Bay at number 41 today, I don't even know if I want to make a pound the table for somebody because there's so many guys available that I would be A-okay with.
Pound the table there are many guys I want.
Yeah, there's just, whether it's a corner, Kool-Aid's there, whether it is Cooper. Heck, I wasn't on this board, but if there's that much available, if they get a wideout, Keon Coleman from Florida State, there's other guys that are available. I'm like, I can't be too upset about that.
Yeah.
They want to go get the fastest running back. I mean, there's dudes available right now.
Yep.
And I'm so pumped. Can it please be 6:00 right now? Because I want to get this thing rolling.
This is your Christmas today.
Oh, this is
yesterday was like Christmas Eve. Sometimes you get to open up like one present and it's fun, but then
this is it. Especially the way with how many picks they have. I'm like, oh, now it'll take a little bit of hit if they package some of those and move up, but still.
But yeah,
I don't think they're going to trade up from 41. There's just so many guys.
Unless there's someone they head and shoulders above the rest, I think maybe you stick and you kind of you have your pick of the litter a bit.
Because I look too at the teams that are picking in front of them, and I'm like, do they necessarily have the same needs as maybe Green Bay does? I think everybody's assuming Buffalo's going to pick a wideout. Or do they trade that? I mean, there was some talk like, hey, this is a smart move by Buffalo to trade from 32 to 33. You get a day to kind of reassess, what you want to do at that wide receiver spot. Do you possibly even trade it for a Brandon Ayuk or a T. Higgins possible? So I like what Buffalo did there. I really do.
And also, when you're in that spot, you have all those other teams calling you just about the pick itself.
Yep.
Because, hey, maybe they like Cooper DeJean or they like Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Yep.
And they may not be that far back, but they want to make sure they get their guys so they can call. And,
yep.
You're in that kind of catbird seat.
Yep. And then, Patriots at 34, I could easily see them going wide out to help out Drake May, get some weapons, maybe more defensive help. They got a lot of needs, right? Offensive line or whatever. Cardinals, I thought they had a good night last night, and they got a shot to Cooper could be a pick over there too. Who knows?
True.
But then Washington's in there a couple times. You got the Chargers. Here's the thing with the Chargers, and Jim Harbaugh wants offensive linemen. There's some good interior offensive linemen.
Right here, you got they already got the tackle, Joe Alt. So, yeah, if you go offensive line your first two, I'm sure Justin Herbert won't mind.
No,
even though they've got some receiver issues now with some of the moves with Mike Williams being gone and Keenan Allen being gone.
Right.
But still, you want to protect your quarterback.
And even Carolina, who moved down, are at 39 there too. They could look at. To me, if Green Bay wants a defensive player, there's going to be a few options there at 41. So I don't see them trading from that unless they're like you said, dead set on somebody and they want to make sure that they come away with that guy. So, all right, let's take a quick break. We could talk draft for the rest of the day, man, if we wanted to. So, we got to talk a little Brewers. We'll throw some Bucks chat. Bucks tip off 4:30 today.
Ooh,
how about that? Early game today. Quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. We're getting set for another busy travel season, vacations, taking our kids to all their ball games and activities and events, and you need a proper vehicle to get you to where you're going and safely. And that's where Toyson Ford can help you out. Toyson Ford will go the extra mile to provide you with compelling options for new and used car shopping. They will gladly work with you on financing no matter what your budget may be. They're committed to giving drivers across the Chippewa Valley the best in customer service. Check them out for yourself. Visit Toyson Ford today at 1000 Chippewa Crossing Boulevard in Chippewa Falls and visit them at toysonford.net. Shout out to Toyson Ford too, because they're the ones that got the now new Dan van all up and running.
Woo.
It's out in the lot with the logos over there. Sponsor logos are going to go on in a couple weeks. So anybody interested in riding with us on the Dan van for mobile shows, tailgate parties, camping down by the river, whatever it may be, you got a couple weeks if you want your logo on there, baby. So you got to let me know, though. Hit me up and I'll get you some info. Ride along with us to Green Bay next year for the draft, right?
Good.
So, but saw it yesterday out in the lot. And I'm like, oh yeah. I posted that picture up on Facebook too.
Starting to be real.
Yeah, it is. Getting a little excited. So, 10 minutes to the top here, though. Let's talk some Brewers here, quick, Brandon. So yesterday they were able to get the victory. Series split here. Yesterday, before the game too, or before yesterday's game, we were talking a lot about the bullpen and how much this bullpen has been asked to do. And boy, they've stepped up. I mean, guys with the innings, they were number one in the ERA. Before in the last 12 games, before yesterday's game and such. This is all without Devin Williams. I mean, in the offense before yesterday's game was kind of struggling a little bit to put up some runs and such. But what can we say about this bullpen and the job that they have done so far?
They've just continued to do what they've seemingly done for several years, which is the sum of what they do is kind of maybe better than how we view the individual parts.
Mm-hmm.
This is the numbers over the years rank pretty well for the bullpen, and usually because in recent years the Brewers have had a really good closer, be it Devin Williams or Josh Hader. But the success has been because of more than that. And this year, they're kind of going with the committee with the bullpen right now. But I think getting back Trevor McGill was a big get. From him coming back, it's just that's a guy that they felt comfortable putting a lot on.
Yeah.
But I think you really got to look at the two lefties that were new this year with Jared Koenig and Brian Hudson. I mean, those are two guys that have, Koenig's been up and down between the majors and the minors a little bit, but those are two guys that have just gotten outs. They're big lefties, but they don't necessarily throw hard, but they're just deception in what they do, and they've gotten outs, and that's just kind of how it's been. We're seeing guys get put in different spots. One day Joel Payamps might be pitching the ninth, one day he might be pitching eighth. It just depends on who's coming up, and that's not an easy spot to put relievers in, but I like the fact that they're just going with it because you can have some people that can be a little bit finicky on. Well, I only I need a defined role. I need to be our eighth inning guy. I need to be our seventh inning guy. I need to be our ninth inning guy. But these guys just want to be a guy in the pen, and I think that's been a big part of this.
Pat Murphy too. I know we've talked about this off and on in here. Guy's not afraid to kind of go out there and say what's unacceptable. DL Hall last week, Pat Murphy came out and he's on the injured list now too. But Pat Murphy said him going 3 3/3. It's unacceptable to continue to do something like that. The other day with the Joey Weimer and Willie Adames miscommunication, unacceptable play from that. I mean, he's not afraid to go out there, but at the same breath too, he's not afraid to admit when. I love the Blake Perkins comment he made where, he said, yeah, when he first came in, I was not a fan.
Yeah.
And now he's like, now I love the guy.
Right.
That sort of stuff. Like he's
very honest.
Yes.
And that is something that, sometimes you kind of have to walk a fine line with because you don't want to be 100% honest all the time.
Right.
But in much more occasions than not, that's a good trait to have.
Mm-hmm. And do you think the guys appreciate that too?
I think so. He's the kind of guy that, I think that, what you said about Blake Perkins, that's big because it just shows, hey, this guy's won me. Like this guy, I was wrong about this guy. This guy was better than I ever expected. So that kind of on the Pat Murphy thing says, hey, obviously I'm the decision maker here, but I'm not, infallible. I make mistakes just like you guys do.
Mhm.
And that I think that's a good trait as a leader to have.
I loved the other night. I think it was after the third game. It was a reporter that asked him, some of your offense players, some of your batters had an opportunity to shine or showcase. And he's like, who? And the reporter's like, William Contreras. He's like, yeah, Contreras. But kind of insinuating like, no, nobody else, because of that offense over there. But
struggling.
Contreras, I mean, first month of the season, this is
What do you say?
MVP
Yeah,
numbers,
what do you
right?
say? I mean, the offense has never been the issue with William Contreras, even going back to when he was in Atlanta. He was an all-star as a DH with Atlanta. The issue when he got to Milwaukee was going to be, can the Brewers shore up his defense? And they have. And he has sacrificed some power for contact, but that's been fine. That's a good thing. And he is, he puts the ball in play. He has a very good bat control where he can kind of, how many times do we see him take a pitch and just go to the opposite field? Just boop. Even if his ground ball rate's really high, so that's not ideal, but he's just so good at using all fields that he is. I mean, he's kind of the point of that offense.
Has the power kind of been a nice surprise in the first month for you?
I think so. And that was something that was some of the moves they made. I think they were looking to get a little bit more beef in that lineup with Gary Sanchez and Rhys Hoskins. And one of the things when you do that is you're going to have times where, there's you swing and miss. And that's happened with them. But
even from the Contreras part,
he's
Contreras,
already him up in his power game.
Yeah.
But that's just something that was needed. They've got the power, they've got the speed. You just want to see a little bit more of the consistency, but still, I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to kind of have different ways you can win a game, as opposed to going into a game saying, well, we have to do this if we're going to win.
I know Gary Sanchez, who had a day yesterday, obviously, with that tattoo home run. And, he told Sophia Minert after the game that, yeah, I'd like, more playing time, hopefully
and that's the tough thing too, is because with Contreras, and I think he said he wants to play every game.
Yeah.
And he's, in a standard 3-game series, he's going to probably catch 2 and DH the other. So that doesn't leave a lot of room for Sanchez. And he was, because he got off to a slow start, but I thought he was in a bit of a tough spot because with the injury he had in spring training, like he just needed time. And it's, it's kind of the catch-22 where you want to give a guy time, but it's tough to give a guy time if he's struggling. But, I mean, doing what he did yesterday, I mean, that can open up the opportunity.
Right.
Especially, the more we get into the year, maybe the more Rhys Hoskins gets comfortable back playing first base. I mean, Gary Sanchez has played first base before, so, I mean, maybe that's a thing to it, here and there. But, I mean, the best way you can kind of make your case to get more playing time is to do exactly what Gary Sanchez did yesterday.
Right. And, we'll see those opportunities, whether like left-handed hit pitching and all. Because I think it was you last week, too, that said Brewers haven't really gone up against a lot of left-handed pitchers, have they?
I think it was Bailey Falter in the earlier on in the Pirates series was the first lefty starter they had faced since opening day.
Man. So.
And then they faced, I think, 2 back-to-back or something like that. So, I mean, that's just an anomaly. I mean, that's going to change. But yeah, they went so long without it that it's tough for, I think of a guy like Andrew Monasterio too, who's now in the minors, but he's a really good hitter off lefties, but it's tough when, that's not an option for someone like him.
Right. All right. So the Yankees series, you're going to one of those games coming
tomorrow.
up here. So you got a lot of offense with the Yankees coming up here too. Freddie Peralta is not going to be pitching. He pitched yesterday. Colin Ray, who's been off to a really good start though this year too. It seems like this is a battle between 2 different styles right now. Is that accurate to say that?
I think so.
What do you? I mean, with this bullpen and all that, is this something that can last? I mean,
I mean, there's a certain amount you can do as far as like shuttling guys to try to keep fresh arms in that bullpen. But at some point, you need more out of your starters.
Right.
And I'm interested to see how Tobias Myers follows up a start he made back on Tuesday, which was solid, especially for your major league debut.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see because, yeah, you're right. You need these guys getting 5 or 6 innings.
You think Aaron Ashby should be up pretty soon here?
I don't. I'm still fine with him kind of continuing to work it out in the minors.
Okay. Interesting.
For me, I don't want Aaron Ashby back up with the team this year until he has put together sustained success in the minors and has shown like, and the velocity's back, and he's showing like, okay, I'm ready. Like, I don't want to rush it.
All right. Good stuff there, Brandon. Shot clock's going to cut us off here. So coming up next, after these news updates here, we'll do some local sports roundup. Big news in Chi High hockey yesterday. Brandon will discuss that, and then we'll cover some other things there. We got cream of the crop coming up next hour. I already said mine in the first hour, but I'll revisit it coming up here for us here too. Throw in some Bucks chat. Bucks game 3 tonight against the Pacers. Early evening, 4:30 tip time. We'll hit that up. Also, get back to your comments. Hit us up with some texts about the first round of the draft yesterday. Quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Third hour kicking off right now. Brandon and I just talking about the draft for next year in Green Bay if it does snow. Roger Goodell and Mark Murphy are gonna have to slide down the Arians Hill.
Tandem toboggan.
Yep. One more time, Mark, before you retire.
on.
Come on. Holding hands and going. That's how you got to make the pick. You got to slide down the hill.
There you go.
Roger Goodell pops up with the first pick. That's what you got to do. So, what?
I was going to say, speaking of with the first pick, can we have the first pick be like 3 minutes?
So ridiculous, isn't it?
Everybody knows what they're going to pick. Like, I think it was pretty close to where Jaden Daniels and Drake May at 2 and 3. Those picks were in quicker.
Well, I was going to say, you know what? I should almost give cream of the crop to Elliott Wolf. Thank you for turning your pick in right away.
Right.
Like they were even saying, like, wow, this was written really quick for a team that everybody thought could trade.
Yeah.
Nope. Got it in.
Yes. If you have the first pick, come on.
Yeah, that's
you know what you're doing.
Well, and I think that's probably a little NFL telling them to, like, okay,
draw it out,
yeah,
draw it out,
yeah, draw it out, and then you put the camera on them, and they're literally everybody's just sitting there. It's like they were waiting for like the permission to. Okay, now you could call him and make it official.
I want to see them take video in a war room where everyone isn't just happy and shaking hands and hugging. Like I want to see one where there's like some drama.
Can we get the audio from the Falcons one? Can we somebody drop that? Some intern with the Falcons, can you drop what Arthur Blank and Terry Fontenot had to say to each other afterwards? That is kind of going all over social media right now. So I'd really like to know that conversation. I just that one just boggles my mind.
Yeah,
it boggles my mind a little bit. So because we were talking a little bit off the air that Raheem Morris said that the quote was Raheem Morris, their new head coach, that they talked about the Green Bay model. Yeah, the Green Bay model was something we talked about. It proved to be right last year. Hopefully, we'll be right with them. Like you and I kind of said, I understand what they're saying, but it's different. It's still different,
right?
Like, big factor to me. I mean, Kirk hasn't been there for a while. You just brought him in, and then Penix with his age.
Yeah, you made such a big hubbub about it.
Yeah.
And I don't think Penix is a guy that's going to need to sit for a while. Like, Jordan Love definitely needed that time to, fine tune the mechanics and all that stuff.
And Aaron Rodgers needed that time.
Yeah, coming from the Jeff Tedford system. Like,
right.
Those guys needed that time. I don't know if Penix necessarily does.
Right.
And those are two Hall of Famers that they were drafting quarterback. By no offense to Kirk Cousins, he's in a business hall. He's going to be in the business Hall of Fame. But
the other part in this too is that Rodgers and Love were in the 20s, drafted in the 20s. They weren't a top 10.
So they were drafted on teams that were already playoff teams.
Right. Yep. So there's quite a few differences
there is.
Over there. So I just, there's a lot of different stuff. Yeah, I don't
way to put it,
stuff. All right, let's do a little local sports rundown brought to you by Amundsen's Appliance Center. Let's start off with the hockey world. Scott Parker calling it a career as coach for Chi High. I know. I mean, that's in your area, but what a career! What a career!
37 years as the head coach at Chippewa. Was there a year before that as an assistant coach? What can you say? More than 400 wins, 7 trips to states. One of their best teams, arguably, that they had this past year.
Yeah.
Being ranked number 1, winning the conference title, going unbeaten in the Big Rivers, which does not happen very much because the Big Rivers is, in my opinion, the best hockey conference in the state. When you look at the Memorial and Hudson and North, New Richmond, now them being added in recently, Rice Lake, Menominee, River Falls, but just to be able to consistently have a contending program for that long is tough. And I got a chance, me and some media members talked with Scott yesterday, but also getting a chance to talk with some of his former players and assistant coaches, just talking about how he was able to be successful. And Scott Parker is a very honest but caring person. Like he'll be we talked a little bit earlier about honesty and with Pat Murphy. It's kind of maybe it's a little bit like that where he's he'll be honest with you about things, but you also know he cares about it. And that was kind of, the way he always wanted to approach things. And he's, being an educator as well, he kind of understood like different people learn different ways. So you got to kind of have to tweak what you do, but not too much because you still need to stay true to your standards, and that's certainly what he and his staffs over the years did.
Mm-hmm. You got a really good piece up at Chippewa.com for anybody that wants to check it out for the Chippewa Herald. But something in the water in Chippewa, I mean, for coaches that stick around for a while.
They've had some really good success over the years. Chuck Rakovich just finished his 50th year as a coach. I think it's about the same 36, 37 years at Chippewa. Longtime boys golf coach Rick Silloway was there for a long time until he passed a few years ago. But they've had some really long-term coaches there and success within those respective programs.
Right. So big shoes to fill.
Big shoes for whoever it is. And, the ball's rolling on that, and, it's going to be an entirely new staff. So, that's something that's, it's going to take a little time to kind of put the plan is ideally to have that in place during the summer. So that way, once you get to like summer workouts and stuff, that new coach can be there working with his team, whoever it is. But yeah, it's going to be different. I mean, Scott Parker has obviously been there since I've been in Chippewa. So that's always been a constant.
Right. I mean,
but now, well-reserved retirement. I mean, he retired from teaching last year. Now he's retiring from coaching. He's going to have some free time. Not all, he's not going to just, become a hermit. He's still very connected with UW Eau Claire, which is his alma mater. He was a member of their 1984 title team, national title team. So, I mean, he's hoping to still kind of be involved there with Coach Lone and the Blue Golds. But, yeah, you'll still see him around. He'll just maybe be a little more
in the background a little bit
more relaxed now.
Yeah,
but yeah, definitely in the background.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, definitely check out Brandon's piece, Chippewa.com there. Where else? I mean, you got some golf that you're going to be checking out.
Yeah, it's a busy day for me today. The big Bloomer boys golf invites this morning up in Bloomer at Bloomer Memorial, our Veterans Memorial Golf Course. A lot of local teams there. Obviously, Bloomer's hosting. They're off to a fantastic start, bringing back their entire lineup from a team that was at sectionals last year. McDonald Regis, Cadet, Stanley Boyd. I mean, a lot of the smaller local teams from this area will be there for that one. That's always a fun day because it's just such a big golf meet. It's one of as far as the number of teams, it's probably one of the bigger golf meets you'll see. But and then a couple big softball doubleheaders today as well. Chippewa Falls hosting Superior, and then showdown between two of the top three teams in the Western Clover Belt with McDonald hosting Fall Creek in a doubleheader. So,
as you said, two of the top three teams. I think those two, along with Thorpe, I believe, are still they're still unbeaten in conference play. So, but those are the top three teams in the standings. Okay. Really quick, I wanted to go back to hockey really quick. The Steel, their coach staff's coming back, and they renewed
the lease with Chippewa Ice Arena, so they'll be at CIA for another 3 years. And yeah, bringing back Chris Ratzlaff and Steve Doherty. A successful first year for them, even if they were a little disappointed missing out on the playoffs. But still, I mean, with a really young team, I mean, that's a Steel team that's going to look a little different next year. You get some local faces that are moving on, Peyton Platter, Joe Kelly, but I think they have a good base set because they had so many younger guys that could potentially be back. They're already hard at work for the offseason. I actually saw Steve Doherty up at the Ice Arena yesterday, and we were talking a little bit about that. And he had mentioned that they're knee deep into their offseason stuff already. They've been out scouting some tournaments already. They've got the NAHL draft coming up in June. So, and that season starts this fall. So, I mean, it'll be training camp before you know it.
Yeah. Baseball wise, I know you were just, was it in Bloomer the other day too?
I was actually in Chippewa.
Okay.
But yeah, for the Bloomer and McDonald baseball.
Okay.
And then they played again last night. So, Western Clover Belt this year is, Regis picked up a win over Cadet on last night. You got Regis, you got Fall Creek, who's got back with the varsity program for the first time in a few years. They were actually co-opting with Black River Falls for a few years.
Okay.
But they're near at the top of the conference there. You got Bloomer and Cadet kind of hot on their heels. It's going to be quite the race in the Western Clover Belt. And then kind of the same thing in the Big Rivers, where I think I mentioned this last week, where you don't necessarily, I don't think, have that one dominant team, but you have a bunch of really good ones. Chippewa Falls, Eau Claire Memorial, Eau Claire North is always good.
Right.
Menominey's picked up some big wins early on here in the season. Hudson River Falls are always in that top 3 or 4.
Tennis. I know you were watching some action a couple days ago.
I was on Tuesday at Chippewa Falls.
Yep.
With in their duel with Eau Claire North, and kind of being able to tell the story of an interesting connection with a bunch of guys on that team, where they play tennis, but actually they joined tennis through pickleball, which is
Really?
yeah, like their top doubles team of G Mason and Colby Stoll, and their top 2 singles players of Cale Dillenbeck and Jackson Blake were all involved with pickleball before tennis.
Interesting.
Yes, and that so that's. And for those of you who don't know pickleball, I mean, you chances are if you've been driving around, you've seen pickleball courts.
Yes.
Like it's like tennis, but it's smaller.
Or you've seen it on TV.
Or you've seen it on TV.
Yeah.
It's a really quickly growing sport.
Yep.
And it is a sport that is picking up, in popularity, very quickly. But kind of talking to them about that, and they all said like they prefer pickleball. Like it's interesting. And I think a lot of times you think of pickleball, you think of like that as a sport for older people, but it's a sport for everyone of all ages. So, and that was just kind of an interesting being able to talk to them about, how they got in with that sport, and then obviously the gateway to tennis, and
Right.
how pickleball is something they said, we can play this the rest of our lives. For us, it's like golf.
Yeah.
For you and me, it's like golf. I mean, we picked it up at our younger age, and it's something that you can just go and do.
Yep, exactly. So, also, I wanted to, because you, for track and field, also a few days ago, you had an article about Trent Netek.
Yes, from Cornell
out there.
Cole.
Yes.
Won a couple states sprint titles in Division III last year down state. And this year, I mean, he's got bigger goals. He's got a football scholarship in his back pocket to Minnesota Duluth. And, this spring he's going out there with the goal of, trying obviously to get back to state, but to set the state record in the 100, in his sprint races when he gets there. And he was pretty close last year. So it's a very realistic goal. Last night, he was actually up in Rice Lake for the Rice Lake track invite. He was third in the 100 and the 200. Jackson LeMay from Chippewa Falls won the 100. So,
okay.
I mean, that was a very good, I think, meet for him to be in, just because you've got a lot of, Division I, Big Rivers type schools there. And so, you're going to really get challenged. And he was, but that's what you want.
And this is a kid you've been kind of covering the last few years, right? And I think, was it you that mentioned, football is like his,
football's his thing. Like he joined track last year specifically to kind of up his stock for football. And he said that that's exactly what it did. He got on the radar with football coaches more so because of his track season, especially downstate when he won, 2 state titles. Like, I mean, he's fast. I mean, there's no other way to say that. I mean, he's super fast, and he's going to be going up to Duluth with in a class of a lot of local kids that are actually in that, Duluth incoming freshman class, including Carter Bovey from Chippewa Falls. So, the future is definitely bright for him.
You and I have played softball against his dad too, and his dad's a monster.
Yes, exactly. So it shouldn't be too much of a surprise, right?
Right, exactly. Also, too, just some WIA stuff, but the NIL did get voted down, which anybody thinking, okay, it's gonna come. It sounds like at some point.
I think it's just gonna be. It's just something that's gonna probably be continued to talked about and worked on and tweaked and everything. Like, because there's still a lot you have to kind of figure out with it. I think that was kind of the thing, and not even so much with NIL in college, but like, you just don't want it to come too quick,
right?
And then suddenly it's the Wild West. You want to kind of have a little bit more of a crystallized idea of like, okay, well, this is what it means, and this is kind of the impact it could have.
Right. Yeah. And really, does CRBL start this weekend?
CRBL does start this weekend. 4 games on Sunday. Hopefully they get them in because of the, obviously
with the weather,
the weather's looking a little
tough,
dicey, a little bit, but CRBL season starts this weekend and really gets underway. Obviously, once you get into March May. Yeah, I'll just keep saying months, and eventually I'll get there.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But then that season that'll be rolling.
All right, the Carpet City Flooring Center local spotlights this week goes to.
I am going to go with one we haven't talked about, but we're going to go with New Auburn softball. New Auburn softball Tuesday night picked up a big win over Bruce, and New Auburn's softball, their first win of the year, their first win actually since returning to varsity play. They did some JV games last year after several years of not having a program, but Coach Courtney Quinn up there is really, they've got a good group of kind of a lot of younger players. They're just trying to kind of obviously get the program back going, and to get a win, and it was a big win. I mean, they scored a ton of runs in beating Bruce. So, there's a lot of teams that are kind of like that in the area. New Auburn baseball and like Holcomb Cornell baseball as well are teams that for a while didn't have a varsity team, and now they're trying to get back into it. And it's tough when you go 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever years it is without a varsity program, and you want to get it back going. Like, you're really starting from ground zero, which
Yeah.
means for a lot of these kids, maybe you played in, Little League or whatever, but it's just such a big jump up. And that was even something I talked about last week with Lake Holcomb Cornell's baseball coach, just
Mhm.
about that process, because they've got 10 players and I think 8 of them are freshmen. I know New Auburn softball has a lot of younger players too, so it's tough.
Right.
But being able to get a win like that is such a boost for a program that's just looking for, you're just looking for, not literally, but also you're just looking for a win. You're just looking for something to be happy with and
Mhm.
something that you can build excitement for. And obviously they got that Tuesday. So we're going to go with New Auburn softball.
Right. Good one there. Blue Golds wise, I know track and field, they've got, again, weather. It's supposed to be home. So we'll see how that goes. And then I know some of them are at the Drake relays as well down in Iowa. You got tennis that's in action, lacrosse that's also in action, women's golf going to be going up against Stout and such. So you got a full slate of, and baseball is going up against Platteville over there too. So full slate of Blue Golds action. You can check it out at bluegolds.com. Stout athletics, kind of the same thing here too. A lot of we mentioned golf's going up against each other. You got the Stout, or the track meet that's going on for you for Eau Claire as well. But believe it or not, the college spring sports are starting to kind of wrap up here too.
Yeah, they always get going, especially track. But
Yeah.
they get going, and for the most part, obviously the weather this spring has been pretty good for them because they got going a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Baseball for Stout's going to be going up against Oshkosh, and that's the thing too. Like baseball just got a couple more weeks left coming up here. Softball's only got a couple more weeks coming up here too before conference tournaments and such. So, but yeah, that's going to be for baseball, big one against Oshkosh. Coming up this weekend here too. But again, a full on slate. Stout softball is going to be. They're taking on Oshkosh as well. So there you have it. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. That's your local sports roundup brought to you by Amundsen's Appliance Center. Mark wants to know, and we'll discuss this coming up after the break, why are fans still booing Roger Goodell? A tradition unlike any other at that point. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back after these few words. Are you looking to get your name out in the public eye more? Do you need some apparel, drinkware, or some signage done? Hey, whatever marketing materials you may be looking for, Resonance Branding Company has a wide range of items to help make your brand stand out from the competition. All your branding needs in one convenient place. Resonance is here to save you time, money, and headaches. They can also set you up with an online store to sell your items as well. So let me simply ask you, does your brand resonate? Resonance Branding Company, the official swag provider for the program and the podcast. Got some of those items up. If you want the link, you can check it out at the podcast description or on the X/Twitter. Mark wants to know, why do fans continue to boo Roger Goodell? He's done a lot for the NFL. I think somebody even asked that in the chat last night. I think the simple answer is, Brandon, it's a tradition. Just because.
Yeah.
It's a thing now. So he's embraced it, right? I mean, even in the intro, again, I don't know which one you were watching, like with Eminem, they were making fun of it too. So when we were at the draft in Chicago, the first one in 2015, he got booed. It was loud. I mean, it's just, honestly, I think people are just doing it just because it's what you do.
Yeah.
Which it's one of those, like, how many times, like, people have done it and people just do it even though they don't know why they're doing it.
Right. I'm not saying that's a good reason,
right?
But that's probably the reason.
Right. So, I mean, you and I weren't booing when he was out there.
No.
Like, I don't have a reason to boo, essentially. So,
no.
That was the 2015 draft.
So 10 years, it would be from Chicago to Green Bay.
And that, honestly, that was around Deflategate, though, too. So that, I don't know if that would have been a reason. I mean, it was Chicago, but still,
Who
it
knows?
was.
I know David Stern, that happened with him in the NBA, and he leaned into it because that's just who David Stern was.
Right.
He'd be
pumping
up the crowd, trying to get them to boo him louder. And
yeah, I think a lot of times it's any commissioner, except for maybe Adam Silver at this point, I don't think deals with a whole lot of that.
They're gonna not. You're gonna get the stink eye.
Yeah, I know you'd probably boo Manfred.
If I was in the same room, I would.
So I think if you asked a lot of fans who were doing it, they'd be like, "Isn't that what you're supposed to do?"
Yeah,
sort of thing.
Oh, just because.
So, yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't read too much into it at that point. So, really quick before we get back to some more draft chat here to wrap things up, because we're already approaching the bottom of the hour here. Bucks are in action tonight at 4:30, a little bit of an earlier tip time today. Your level of concern right now, though, Middleton's questionable with that ankle injury, doubtful still for Giannis. The series is split at 1 apiece. It's in Indiana right now. I feel like this is a series. I don't know if this is a great comparison. It's kind of giving me flashbacks of, like, and it's not to this physicality by any means, Miami and the Knicks in the early 2000s, where I feel like the Pacers are trying to play that role of, like, we're going to try to trash talk and annoy them. They're young and just trying to get into their head and trying to get, to frustrate the Bucks, but also, just to, like, they're being that pesky team that's trying to annoy them and doing that little talk. And Bobby Portis was talking about after game 2. He's like, hey, they're front runners. They talk when the talk is good, and when things are bad, they don't talk. And all. You're getting that kind of vibe with it right now.
Yep.
I feel like.
Yeah, I think I would agree.
So, and I feel like for the Bucks, my biggest concern here is what we saw in game 2. If it's close when it gets to the 4th, Pacers, to me, have the advantage because they want to run, or the legs underneath the Bucks when it gets to that 4th quarter.
Right. I think the more this game is played in transition, the tougher that is for the Bucks, because that's how Indiana thrives.
Right. I feel like Middleton's going to play tonight. It's just, and I don't have a gauge. I feel like he's going to. I have no idea what to expect from Giannis at this point, to be honest. I mean, it sounds like he's getting closer. He's doing more and more and more, but do you think they can win one of these games in Indiana, either tonight or Sunday?
Yeah.
You think that?
Yes, I do.
Confident in that?
Relatively.
I'll ask you for your pick later on, so I'm going to put you on the spot for both of those. All right. So, I mean, your level of concern, 1 through 10, so it sounds like you're at a 5.
I was going to say 6. But
okay,
yeah, 5
so
or 6,
5 or 6 right now?
Yeah.
All right.
How are you?
I'm about a 7. I'm about a 7 right now. I just, they got to find a way to slow down Pascal Siakam. And I don't know if that's whenever Giannis does come back, if he does come back, if that kind of takes care of it there a little bit. But Pascal Siakam has been having a fantastic series to begin. They have no answer for him at this point. Dame has exceeded my expectations, which kind of sounds weird. But I think I'm just more impressed, or maybe I'm flabbergasted that Indiana's just like, just put 2 guys on them every single time and make somebody else try to beat us.
Mm-hmm.
And Dame is still being able to get it done. I think Dame is doing his job.
Right.
I think Dame is doing what we expected, what we were hoping for.
Right.
There's just been a little inconsistency
You just need
behind
more
it.
from the supporting cast.
Right. So, anything kind of been standing out to you so far in these NBA postseason?
I mean, they're only 2 games in, but shout out to the Timberwolves. I mean, they came out and did exactly what they needed to do in those first 2 games with the Suns. I mean, I thought the Suns would win that series.
Is this, he's kind of been talked about, kind of getting a little bit more hype, but is this the series where more people know who Anthony Edwards is?
Yes.
This playoffs?
Yes. I think he's having that series where, you realize it's like he's not just a guy. He's a guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's something special.
Because you hear once in a while these high praises, and I feel like some people are like, okay, Anthony Edwards. But then, you have those players that have that series or that playoffs where they're just like, oh, that's your coming out party then.
Yes.
Really.
Yes.
And, he's Olympic team and all that, but you hear these great comparisons and talk about him, but still maybe isn't mentioned as, as one of the top 5 names in the game. And I just wonder if this is going to be that moment for him where more outside of us and Minnesota fans know who Anthony Edwards is.
Right. So far, so good.
Mm-hmm. So, and I think for like the Heat, they got to do what happened in game 2 for them to win that.
Just make a ton of threes.
Make a ton of threes. That's Boston gives up a ton of threes.
After that game, I had seen some people making the comment about, Miami making a ton of threes, like in a first round series. Bucks are kind of having a little PTSD with that, given how that's hurt them.
Right. Yep. So, okay. Hockey wise, what was your Stanley Cup picks? Did you have one?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't.
Are you rooting for anybody, even though you're Penguins? Or
not
like
really. I'm just more of kind of an observer.
Yeah. I picked. I'm winning a little bit different. My Kraken didn't get back to the postseason this year, so I was riding the Connor McDavid train and be like, why not?
Why not?
Get the fighting Connor McDavid's over there. So, all right. Well, I was wondering if you kind of.
No, I didn't.
Do you think the Stanley Cup Finals? Like, I know quite a few people that maybe don't watch a lot of hockey during the regular season, but then it's like, oh, when the playoffs on, it's a different animal.
Playoff hockey's a different beast. Like, it's just the energy you get at those games is very hard to replicate anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you've got say like Toronto.
Yeah.
A team that's a very historically significant team, but they haven't won a title in a while, so like it's significant. We saw the celebration last year when they won the first round series.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just you can tell it means a lot to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Right. Back to the draft. Caleb Williams apparently broke the Fanatics record for draft night merchandise sales for any draft pick in a sport, beating Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, who said it last week. So.
Well, hopefully those jerseys are not like a number 16 May one, because Fanatics has had their struggles with taking over a lot of the apparel with leagues.
Yeah, you were being very cautious with that.
I was trying to make sure I found the best way to say it.
Yeah, no doubt. If anybody's a Cardinals fan, you're not getting any Marvin Harrison Jr. stuff anytime soon because he hasn't signed a licensing agreement with the NFLPA, which, because I asked you up here, I'm like, that would mean he can't be in Madden then, right?
I think so.
With the new game?
I think so.
Until he signs that?
We remember, you would go back and, in the older Maddens, if you would have, QB number 1 or something.
Or Bill Belichick never signed off on that.
Bill Belichick never did either. So the coach for the Patriots on Madden will always be someone that's not Belichick.
Yeah. It was like either a former coach or just some generic guy. I remember playing NBA Action 95 on Sega. Orlando. Wasn't Shaq, it was roster center. He was really good, and he looked exactly like Shaq.
Crazy.
But the name was roster center, and he wore 00.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was with that, but it was, that was roster center. It was Shaq. and he's, I mean, shaved, tall, all that.
Broke
Yeah.
backboards.
Yep. Marv Albert calling the game on there too. So that was also the era too where they didn't say the players' names. Remember that?
Yeah.
It
It'd be like
was
number 2,
yeah.
number 4. Well,
Yeah.
that was also an era when you would have like several games from like of the same league.
Yeah.
Like it was much more wide open.
Yes. There was like NBA Live, NBA Action, you know, for basketball ones. There was just a boatload.
Bill Laimbeer Combat Basketball, going back a few years before that. But
ton of, I mean, triple play for baseball. You know, football was like, whether it was
you kind of had Madden, you had NFL Game Day.
yeah,
Those
game
were
day.
kind of some of the bigger ones. You had different-
Blitz.
NFL Blitz, yeah, that was obviously a little bit different, but still.
Mm-hmm. What was it? Didn't they have like a street ball one too? Like
NBA
Ricky
or
Williams?
NFL Street.
Yeah, like Ricky Williams was on the
Yeah,
cover or something
yeah.
like that.
It was just like it was like 3 or 4 on 4, and it was a
Then the short run of 2K.
short but memorable.
Mm-hmm.
It's still looked at to this day.
It is. It is. All right. So I was looking at Matt Schneidman, who covers the Packers for The Athletic. He had posted up here a little bit. NFL draft best available players for Green Bay. And for round 2, this is where I was kind of, it goes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier. He's got like 15 dudes, you know, and I know they got like 2 picks, but that's where there's so many good players still available. Cooper, Jackson Powers Johnson, if they still want another center, you know, or guy to play guard, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Jaden Hicks. I mean, they got some edge rushers out. I mean, gosh, tonight's going to be so much fun. For anybody who says defensive tackle too, Matt says here, I don't foresee the Packers using a pick in the first or second round, which first is over with, on a position at which they already have Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton, Carl Brooks, and Colby Wooden. So anybody thinking defensive tackle over there? The other part of that would be, though, Kenny Clark is in his final year. I don't know if that would factor into it. He's still fairly young, though, for defensive tackle. So, but I did get, we got a message from Paul saying speed, in edge players in DL and outside linebacker and defensive back in that order. Well, remember, it's not really 3-4 anymore, so it's be like edge or defensive ends at that point. Then best available and running back, outside linebacker and inside linebacker. So curious, he didn't. I suppose defensive back, so that does cover safety and corners over there a little bit. So, but so when's your next pick? Day 3, 4?
Day 3.
Is it round 4?
It's near the front of round 4.
All right. So what is the next position you want your team to get? You got to
in the year 25. No.
Yeah.
I think you throw
just
more
best available. Or,
yeah, I mean, day 3, I'm all about best available.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've defensively, I thought they had 3 big needs, and that was any order of edge, D lineman, and corner. Obviously, they went edge with Dallas Turner, so you know, getting some more beef up front is important because their defensive line just, you know, they could use it. Corner as well. Although those are places you can still kind of maybe go back to that, you know, after draft free agency to grab a veteran or two. Wouldn't mind seeing them, you know, address the interior of the offensive line, especially guard. That's looking a tad rough at this point. But
Tanner
also,
Borrellini maybe an option.
Center guard, yeah, that could be a possibility. Day 3 if he doesn't go today. But
what about running back for you guys?
I wouldn't mind it, but I would say that's more of like a 6th or 7th round thing.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not someone that really likes to spend like a day 1, certainly day 1, but maybe necessarily even a day 2 pick on a running back. Just because a lot of times you can find them. But I think maybe that would be a spot to add. And, you know, I mean, at this point, it'd be a 3rd stringer that maybe could take on a bigger role next year because Vikings have Aaron Jones and Tyson Chandler.
Yeah.
Or Ty Chandler, sorry.
Do you think Braylon Allen gets drafted today or is he a day 3?
I feel day 3.
Okay.
Like early day 3.
Like 4th round?
Like 4th round. Yeah, I think he goes early 4th round.
Do you think he should have stayed another year? Do you think his stocks? I don't know if his stock would have improved that much.
I don't know if it would have. I mean, I get it because the big thing with running backs is always just like the amount of wear and tear on your body. You've only got so many carries in you, you know, unless you're an absolute athletic freak.
Like a Bijan Robinson last year, or even
like,
Gibbs, I guess, too,
yeah,
from Detroit.
I didn't blame him for it. I didn't mind it. I mean, you know, he's
The youngest guy in the draft.
He's the youngest guy in the draft, and there's going to be an allure there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I could be completely wrong. I don't see him as a fit in Green Bay. I know some people are still saying that it's a good story. I feel like if Green Bay's going to go get a running back, it's got to be somebody different than Jones and A.J. Dillon. And I feel like Braylon Allen's kind of in that same mold a little bit, where I want maybe
Josh Jacobson.
Yeah, what did I say? Jones? Jacobs. Josh Jacobs. It's going to be hard for me.
Yes. But no, yeah, you're right. Someone that's a little bit more kind of explosive, a little more of a jitterbug.
Yes. Home run type of plus right there.
Yes.
That's where I'd like to them if they do running back.
Maybe that's like an Isaac Guerrero, the former Badger Louisville guy. I mean, he's more of like a straight line speed, hit the hole and go kind of guy,
right?
Than power,
right? And I feel like they've got the power covered. I know Goody said last year they'd like to get some power backs, but I feel like they got it covered at that point in time. And it's a guy that you don't necessarily have to split carries with him right away with Jacobs. It could be change of pace here for a little bit, or just unique packages, that sort of stuff.
I got one for you. What round does Torrey Taylor go? The punter from Iowa.
Why? Are you trying to get me to?
He's a legend. The greatest punter in college history. Where is he going?
Somebody will get him in the fourth.
Okay. I like that. I was going to say fourth or fifth.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Carolina. I don't know why.
I'm going to say the Colts because of Pat McAfee.
There we go. And then Pat McAfee is just going nuts.
Yep, exactly. We don't have Mike Sherman drafting anymore for Green Bay, so no kickers like your punters in this. I still can't believe Janikowski was a first-round pick. You think about that now in today's day.
It's crazy thing, but actually it was not. In hindsight, it wasn't a bad first-round pick.
No,
because they actually got good production from a long time. But you're right. Like, could you imagine now if that happened?
And it wasn't that long ago. That's the thing.
It was like 20 years ago.
Yeah, 2000 draft. Drafted 17th overall.
17th. Like, wow.
That's where your Turner was drafted last night. Your edge rusher.
Yes.
Was 17th. We had a kicker 24 years ago drafted 17th overall.
Oh.
It's not that long ago.
I'm not the kind of person that likes to look back and say, oh, it was better back then. But, man.
It was at some points, wasn't it?
Oh,
I mean, except for the contracts that the rookies got, that was ridiculous. But
that was a good trade, or that was a good tweak that they made.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Stafford?
Stafford was the last one.
Was the last one.
Yeah. Or no, Bradford.
It was
Sam
Bradford. Yeah,
Sam
Bradford was a bit of that Kirk Cousins in him, where he got paid. Like,
yeah. Yep. How many All-Pros? Quick trivia before we take a break. How many All-Pros do you think Janikowski made in his career?
None.
Close. He was a one-time second-team All-Pro.
There you go. But yeah, he was always good.
Oh, he had the leg.
Yeah.
Only one Pro Bowl. Only one Pro Bowl.
It's crazy because you're like, wow, but it's a kicker. I'm like, but I mean,
God,
you think of
so
how many
cool
people
think
bust.
about,
It's like, would you take that? Would you take 10, 15 years, 12 years of like good production out of that spot? I'll tell you this, as a Vikings fan, I may be a little bit more inclined to say I might.
Given what I saw from Anders Carlson last year, though, too, I might be.
Yeah, but you can just get that in the 6th round with Mason Crosby.
Right. Yeah.
Jerk.
We'll take our final break and make some final picks and predicts. Will we ever see the day where a kicker gets drafted again in the first round? Memories, man. That's good stuff. Gosh. All right, it is time for some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Maybe you want to watch, be a perfect spot to double it up with, you got some hoops games, want to watch the drafts, or even some baseball. Head on over to the Elbow Room, located right next to the Banbury Place in Eau Claire. Grab yourself some Man Cave lights over there and just sit back and enjoy kind of a sports mecca tonight with a lot of stuff going on right now. So let's do some picks and predicts. I'm going to start it off with this way because what you just kind of said off the air just made me realize something that could potentially happen tonight, Brandon. So I know a lot of Packers fans are hoping to hear that Cooper DeJean is going to be a Packer. Fate would have it, Brandon. Brian Bulaga is announcing the second-round picks for the Packers tonight.
Oh my God! What are you getting now?
I'm just throwing it out that he is announcing the 2 second-round picks for the Packers tonight. You know, if that card says Cooper DeJean, Iowa, he is going to live it up, right? I mean, how many Packers fans are going to be pumped for that? He's going to get booed because it's in Detroit. It's the Lions. But how ironic. Isn't it ironic?
Don't you think?
You want that to happen now too, don't you? I know you like Cooper, and I know you want to see
I
that
don't
happen.
think I need him in Green Bay. So
Brian Bulaga is going to announce Cooper DeJean, Iowa tonight. That's my prediction.
There we
it's
go.
going to happen because will that make Packers fans happier now? Not just the fact that Cooper was picked in the second round, but the fact that Brian Bulaga gets to announce it and he gets to say Iowa on that, right? We can say that.
Right.
So, all right, that's my prediction over there. So, all right, let's do some other picks here. Brewers, how many wins in this series? You're going to the game tomorrow.
I am.
So.
I'm going to say 1. I'm going to say they drop 2 or 3 this series, but I say they win tomorrow when I'm there.
Who's on the mound tomorrow?
Joe Ross.
That's right, Joe Ross.
He's the boss. Stan Ross. Mr. 3000, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know the greatest baseball movie of all time.
Something clips of that movie were popping up for me the other day. I don't know why.
Greatest baseball movie ever.
Oh, stop. Is it even in the top 20?
Probably not.
Yeah, no. That's the only one that has the Brewers in it.
It
though,
is.
isn't it?
That's why it's the greatest one.
It was almost like if your team was in a baseball movie, it meant that you were probably pretty bad, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, a lot of times.
Many times, not all the times.
But give me a frown there.
No, I said many, but not all the time.
Okay. Were the Yankees bad when The Scout was made with Brendan Fraser? Remember that movie?
Vaguely.
He was like the pitcher from an unknown country, and then was too nervous to go out. It's just that's an old classic out there too. So, what else? So I'm gonna go 1-2. I think the Brewers take 1. All right, Bucks have game tonight and Sunday. What do you got?
I say they lose tonight, but they win Sunday.
That's what I was going to go with, too.
Stop copying me.
So they were going to go 2-2. I think this goes 7.
I do, too.
I think it goes 7. I've got this feeling that it's going to do that. So what else do we got for some picks out there? Let's do some more postseason NBA ones over there. Who does the Twins play? Do you know off the top of your head this weekend?
Not off the top of my head. I can find out, though.
Okay, you do that while I bring up the rest of the postseason games here. So the NBA, by the way, last night, Denver's up 3-0 on the Lakers, and Orlando coming out hot, picking up a win. That series is now at 2-1, and Philadelphia picking up a win, too.
Twins are out in Anaheim, to play the Angels.
Okay, they continue.
I think they take 2 or 3 there.
Okay, I'll go 1 of 3. I'm going to go 1 of 3. Are the Astros one of the most disappointing teams in baseball right now after just getting swept by the Cubs, too?
I mean, I'm not disappointed by it, but I can understand how Astros fans would be. I mean, they are.
Was Dusty Baker that big of an advantage? I mean, this is, new manager. Was Dusty Baker that big of a difference?
I don't know what's going on there, but 7-19. They have the same record as the Rockies,
who
they actually play this weekend in Mexico.
Okay.
Rough.
Clippers, Dallas. That's also tonight.
Dallas.
Oh, Dallas too. Minnesota at Phoenix.
I'm going to say Phoenix gets this one.
I think Phoenix does too. Then let's go to, because we don't care about the Saturday games, let's go back to Minnesota and Phoenix because they also play on Sunday.
I will take Minnesota on that one too. At this point, I will take Minnesota in 6.
It's Grayson. It's weird that we're talking about Grayson Allen. With his ankle injury, could he be a difference? No, I'm going to go Minnesota. Don't overthink it. Keep it simple, stupid. Right? So I'll go. Yeah, I like that. Minnesota in 6. Minnesota in 6. Let's do some Stanley Cup picks. You in for that?
Yeah.
Let's do some Stanley Cup picks here for some of the games coming up here. Tonight we've got the Rangers, who are leading 2-0 against the Capitals in Washington.
I'm gonna take the Rangers again.
Okay. I'll go Capitals. Why not? Vancouver at Nashville, tied at 1 apiece.
Vancouver.
I'm going to go to Nashville. Winnipeg at Colorado.
Colorado.
I'm going to go Colorado. Edmonton at the Kings.
Edmonton.
I'm going to go Oilers too. And then let's just do some Saturday games here because it's different. Carolina at the Islanders. Carolina's up 3-0.
I think Carolina closes out. I think that team, if I were to make a pick for a champ, that would have been near the top. They've got all the pieces. It's just a matter of them putting it together in the postseason, and so far they have.
I kind of went a little bit off the board. I had Edmonton beating Carolina in the Stanley Cup final, just to be a little different. Florida also up 3-0, and they're at Tampa Bay tonight, or on Saturday, excuse me.
I'm going to take Tampa Bay.
I'm going to go Tampa too.
Monty Kiffin loves that.
Boston at Toronto.
I say Toronto evens it up.
I'll go Boston. Dallas at the Knights. Vegas leading 2-0.
Dallas.
I'll go Dallas too. They got a little bit of a shocker. A lot of people were kind of high on Dallas so far this year too. So, all right. Those are some Stanley Cup picks over there too. So, I was going to say, who's the next quarterback, but I don't even.
I'm assuming it's Spencer Rattler, but who knows when.
Raiders? Would they?
Could be.
Or are they going to give it to just go Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell?
Maybe.
Maybe the next question is who's the next receiver picked? It's got to be Mitchell from Texas, maybe, or Keon from Florida State.
I mean, if Buffalo doesn't trade out of that spot, you feel like it's one of those guys there.
Mm-hmm. Who will be the first running back taken, do you think? I'm going to go Brooks from Texas.
Yeah.
Or is it Benson from Florida State, maybe?
Yeah. Tell you what, just to be contrarian, I'll go with Benson.
Benson? Okay. Will, bold prediction time. Will Brandon Ayuk be traded today?
No.
Okay. Will Deebo Samuel be traded today? Because that's one of them out there. That one of those two guys could potentially be traded.
I'm going to say no.
I'll say no. I'll say no too. I don't think that'll happen. I know that Brandon Ayuk texted John Lynch after that pick last night. Said that straight fire. They were former teammates, Brandon Ayuk and their new receiver in college at, was it Arizona or Arizona State? I think they were.
It's Arizona State.
Yeah, Arizona State. So, but I don't think it'll happen. I think Buffalo is probably inquiring.
Oh, sure.
I mean, if I'm Buffalo, why wouldn't I inquire at this point, right? So whether it is T. Higgins or Brandon Ayuk, I think you at least talk about it, and if not, draft who you think the next best wide receiver is at number 33. So, do you put it on record? Do you like the draft format now, or do you wish it was still Saturday, Sunday?
I love Saturday, Sunday.
See, I don't.
I know that's something we're very different on, but I love Saturday, Sunday. And a big part of that was back when I was younger, my friends and I would get together and we would watch it. We'd make a big old breakfast. It was basically just all of us hanging out all day on Saturday. Only on Saturday. We didn't do that on Sunday, but I preferred the Saturday marathon.
No, I don't. It's too long. I got stuff to do. And I love the draft.
I was a high schooler, early college. I didn't have anything to do.
Well, get out more. What was the first draft you remember watching and getting into?
The first draft I remember watching at all was actually 93.
Wow.
That was a Keyshawn Johnson draft.
Okay.
I remember watching it for a small period of time, but then I was a little kid. I got bored. I think the first one I remember sitting down and watching was early 2000s, maybe 2001 or 2002. Yeah.
The first one I remember really getting into is Peyton and Ryan.
Okay.
Getting into that
Yeah,
whole
98,
who's going
yeah.
to be the first pick
Yeah.
over there.
Yep.
That was when I really started to get into it. I was watching it a little bit here and there before then, but that was like that whole drama. Like that would have been an interesting one to have with Twitter and social
Now,
media still
yeah.
around with those two over there. But
Well, and then in '98, you have other things going on too.
Charles Woodson was
Charles
in there.
Woodson,
Yep.
Randy Moss falling.
Yep.
And only 2 years later, you had a kicker draft in the first round.
Oh man, do you think Mel Kiper appreciates that the draft is spread out a little bit more? So because he doesn't go to the bathroom, he's a little bit older now. Do you think he appreciates it spread out a
Probably,
little bit?
as long
now?
as he gets his pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin. God, how does that guy pumpkin pie every day? Every day, right? That's what it is. Every day.
I think so.
All right, Brandon. Enjoy the rest of the draft because you don't have any picks until Saturday. So, gonna be a good day, Packers fans. I got a feeling. I've got a feeling, as the Black Eyed Peas once said. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good rest of your weekend. We'll be back at it Monday morning. Talk to you then.